Uh, Good evening. This is your substitute host. We're going to start this evening with our work session, and upon the arrival of the deputy mayor, we will immediately go into the special session for the swearing in of our newest police officer, Robert Pilati. But until the deputy mayor gets here, we'll do our first item. One of the items is here.
Deputy Mayor.
Then I will give over the chair.
You have the, what he needs to read.
I do have the chief one.
You have what? Okay, good now, Jess. Thank you so much. Okay.
Why don't let's call this meeting to order, please. I'll take the roll. Trustee Fritchie.
Present.
Trustee White.
Present.
Trustee Cazada.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Lopez.
Present.
And remotely, Mayor Levin.
Present. Can you hear me, Stuart?
But we do see her. Why don't we all
Can you hear
rise
me?
for the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have one item on our agenda. Is there anyone who would like to make a public comment on this one agenda item? Not seeing anyone. We will go to Village Board resolutions. Resolution approving Robert Pilati as police officer. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby appoints Robert Pilati a second-year police officer in the Village of Ossining effective October 2, 2023, and an annual salary of $75,819, second-year salary. And be it further resolved that this appointment is subject to a probationary period of not less than 12 nor more than 52 weeks. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion by members of the board?
I just want to say that I had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Pilati and we're very impressed. I think that you'll have a lot to add to our community, and our community will in turn have a lot to add to you and your family. So welcome.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We'll record that as 4-0. And Chief, I'll turn it over to you now.
You gotta do this.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. Okay. Repeat after me.
Both, Mike. I
Thank
understand.
you.
I'm not sure why.
Okay. Jamie, we go with these two?
We need both of them because one is Zoom for the recording. Recording in progress. There's a different camera for just this part.
Oh, got it. Okay.
It's not saying I'm saying you don't have to.
Okay. Put it in the middle. Great. Okay. You, Jesse? Okay. I, Robert Pilati, being duly sworn, state on my honor, I will never betray my badge, my integrity, my character, or the public trust. I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for our actions. Further, that I am a resident of the state of New York, and I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of New York. I will obey all the ordinances, rules, and regulations of the Village of Ossining, and will faithfully discharge the duties of
duties of
the office of
the office of
police officer
police officer
in and for
in and for
the said village of Ossining,
the said village of Ossining,
New York,
New York,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
All right, am I,
You're
both
on.
of these, none of these,
I think both.
together. This way, that way, Jamie,
I think this.
I think
That way.
We're just gonna mix them together.
there we go. We'll face sideways. They'll get all of us.
Thank you.
All right, so,
In the back of the podium.
but then I can't face that way too.
I meant like, whatever. You-
I don't know. I'm gonna just do this.
Got it, chief.
So this is Robert Pilati. He's our newest officer. Really excited to have him here. Comes from the Dutchess County Sheriff's. Prior to that, City of Albany Police Department. Prior to that, corrections with the Dutchess County Sheriff, working in the jail. So lots and lots of law enforcement experience. Short period of time, but lots of varied experience. We actually scooped him up when our officers found him. When our officers were instructor trainers at the New York State Defensive Tactics Instructor School, and Robert was a student there. So a certified defensive tactics instructor, certified taser instructor. He was about to be qualified to ride an ATV. He said he didn't want to do that, so he left Dutchess County, came down here, said he wanted to ride in a car. It's much better in the snow, I promise. So when we meet officers, we're always looking for something that's going to distinguish them from the run-of-the-mill folks that come through. And more important than defensive tactics and more important than ATVs is that he came here and said, in Dutchess County, I work in a place where I drive around, and sometimes my backup is 45 minutes away and I'm by myself dealing with problems, and I'm seeing people and they're passing through, and that's all they are, is people that are passing through. And I want to come work somewhere where I'm engaged with my neighbors and that I have coworkers that I can be close with and be part of a community. And that's what we're looking for in every single person that comes through here. So excited to have you. Congratulations. Can't wait for you to start. That line there. You're all set.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
You want to get a picture with the board?
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm gonna try to get just you in the picture.
We're gonna close Bud's screen.
Okay, can you, wait, hold on, can I get a picture of the board? I'll take a picture of the board.
Oh, yeah.
And we just,
Can't leave yet.
so, you know.
As our Lord and Savior.
I'll go in.
It's just microphone.
I'll get one with you guys and then we'll do with, Leave them for Rico. Yes, I can. Yeah, no. He's fine, okay, yeah. All right, thank you.
No more.
Thank you.
You're tempted.
We can say, you say.
I'm just gonna. One more person. Rika's still in the picture, just.
You don't have to do that.
Can you guys hear me now? Can you guys hear me now?
Woman behind the curtain, the great aunts.
For a TV show, Rita's still in the picture.
You guys hear me?
Congratulations.
Congratulations, welcome aboard.
Can you ask her if she?
Mayor, can you speak to see if we can hear you, please?
I'm trying now. Can you see my mouse moving?
That's a no. Okay.
No? Ugh.
My apologies.
I don't know what's going on.
Okay, well, may I have a motion to adjourn this special session and go into work session?
Second.
All in favor?
Fine.
Thank you. Karen, I'll turn it over to you.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Is our guest here?
Our guest is not here yet. I need to text her. I'm sorry, I was.
Okay, so we're gonna skip to our second agenda item tonight.
The third one, so otherwise that's probably gonna take an hour.
The other one, when she gets here, she'll just have to do it when she gets here. Okay, I'd like to have the introduce Chief Sylvester to give his quarter 3 police reform update.
One microphone now.
Yeah, that's just.
Okay.
Oh, I have to see for you. It's up to you.
Oh.
But the folks- folks at home can hear me that. Okay, so it's something with the room and I'll have to have that fixed. I'm sorry.
It's probably the speaker somewhere.
Speakers.
went to the courtroom, this, right?
Probably.
Somebody turn it off. Oh.
Mayor, can we hear you now?
Can you hear me?
Okay.
I said the speaker.
Wait, you can?
Victory.
Oh,
They said, no, they said it
All right.
was on.
All right, we're good. Let's-
I just want to go on the record that it's not on my end.
Okay.
Nobody was blaming.
And we have the chief who's going to give his quarter 3 report now.
Great, I've been hearing the whole thing. I do have to say the microphones, the new ones are fantastic. I could hear every whisper in the room. Great.
Yeah, no, that's fine. All right, so on the board is our police reform tracking document there. So this is the one we've been working off for, I believe, a year, maybe more now.
2 years.
For 2 years now. Not a lot of meat left on the bone on most of these. There's lots of stuff that is ongoing because it's things that we were done with and we're continuing on with. But as you can see, for a number of them, they're already designated as done. So 1 through 6 were all legislative items that were with the Corporation Council. 7 and 8 in my last notes I had in progress, but they were included in the local law. I believe that they're already those are already done. They were marked as local law 1 of 2022, which I believe became 2023.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so those are done as well, and those can be updated to reflect that. 9 and 10, 11 and 12 also all done, dealing with the Civilian Complaint Review Board in terms of there's indications about training and who's to conduct training. I know that Detective Lieutenant Zimmerman had a session, I believe last week, with the Civilian Complaint Review Board to conduct training for new members that are there. The next one down where there's anything to have any change on would be number 13, which deals with county and state level reform. That falls with the village board, and I don't believe that there's been any discussion of that at either of those levels, so I don't know that there's been anything done with it. 14 and 15 were also indicated as done already. Number 16 deals with LGBTQ plus community and policies. We have had a little bit of a challenge matching schedules with the loft, but we have a Zoom meeting on the calendar for October 12th. They've had our policies for quite some time and have reviewed them. It's just a matter of matching up schedules so that we can get their feedback on those. So that is on the calendar for October 12th. 17 and 18 were already all indicated as done. Number 19 deals with finding a volunteer agency to respond to calls. There really is no other functional option, and that was indicated in the notes already, to develop a reserve force that can respond to police calls. However, as it's already noted in there, the mobile crisis response team really is providing that service. So what they do is they'll respond to calls that are either dispatched by us or from time to time, they'll get calls from other agencies seeking help. They've interfaced with our schools. They've interfaced with community groups. They've responded on everything from mental health calls to violent crime, and they really are tremendous partners. Great to have them in our building and expanding their mission. So they began as a Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. agency. They have now expanded and have 2 people on for Saturday, at least part of the day. They continue to struggle, as the rest of us do, with trying to find suitable candidates to fill additional slots. Eventually, they'll be 24/7, 365. But I think they, similar to how we view things, would rather have quality people than volumes of people. So they've been very careful with who they've hired to make sure that everybody is well suited to do the difficult work of the crisis team. Number 20 talks about critical incident training. So 16 officers have completed that so far. Of our, say, 40 or so officers that are actually attending work right now. More of those officers are scheduled coming up in the fall, that we're going to get them through as we go. As we stated when we began this program, it was going to be a long, slow process to get everybody through it. We get them through a few at a time. But the good news is that with every officer we hire that goes through an academy or that's recently gone through an academy, they all have that training. So for instance, Officer Pilati will already have that training when he joins us on Monday. Number
you-
21,
Steve, what number are you on? 20?
that was number 20.
So you're saying on number 20, it's now part of the ongoing sort of routine for every new officer to go through this type of training?
Yes, every new officer we have, the struggle for us is always going to be getting staff and existing officers through it. One is finding the course when it's offered, because it's not commonly offered for as in-service training. It's offered, just not as often as some other classes. And two is having the staffing to pull people out and go to those and balancing that against our other training requirements. So we're moving people through it as we have the availability of courses and timing. We're more than a third of the way through the department right now.
Okay,
Number 21 deals with messaging to the Hispanic community, particularly with ICE. As the board knows from the notices I've sent, they've only been here a couple of times in the last year. So Detective Chavez is doing a lot with his Spanish language Facebook page. We try to keep the messages to ICE specific to when they're needed, and when it becomes a conversation in the community where there's nothing going on, we try not to focus on the negative stuff. 23 is another ongoing meeting. 24 goes back to our meeting with the loft. So I also have down here. So number 24 deals with partnering with community groups. So part of what we're looking to do when we meet with the loft, we also had discussed training programs that they can provide for us. Detective Chavez is doing some work with Neighbors Link. He has extensive work with Feeding Westchester. If anybody saw yesterday, we had, I believe we had more than 100 families lined up yesterday, and all were able to come get groceries at our mobile food pantry that happens once a month, except when it rains, every single Thursday. Number 25 is a particular challenge, deals with the ongoing mission to increase diversity in the department. We are doing all that we can. We have increased percentages over the course of the last year with our hires, and we'll continue to seek that. But as everybody knows, our hands are a bit tied in terms of who we hire based on who's available through civil service and those that can pass an agility test.
can I just interrupt for a second? Can you guys hear me okay? I was told that I'm muffled.
No,
I also have laryngitis. It may not be my computer. Omar, I know you're taking notes, but a lot of this stuff is not really in process. A lot of this is sort of ongoing, like it's no longer like something has a beginning, middle, and an end, which is the way
Right.
this document. So I hope you're getting some of this and going to change it to ongoing as part of departmental procedures. Because I think
Yeah.
that's a more accurate wording for like this one, and I think 21, there's a bunch of them, but this has just become part of department procedures.
Right, I got it.
Thanks.
So for 26, it talks about interfacing with people that are potential candidates and dealing with the schools. So Officer Tompkins, Officer Valencia, myself, we each attended a number of classes at the end of last school year. This school year just beginning, we don't have programs up and running yet. It is too soon for us to be pushing it on classes. The teachers are still establishing their routines, but we'll continue with that mission of pushing into classes and speaking in the government classes and different things in high school in order to introduce people to law enforcement. Lieutenant Mayorana, as I'd mentioned last week in my weekly report, is currently putting together a youth academy that's going to be targeting Ossining High School students in order to both answer questions and introduce prospective candidates to the profession. 27 dealt with our training program. You know, as the board knows, we've been very, very shorthanded for quite some time now, and I am confident by the end of this year we'll be fully staffed with the next canvassing of the list. But that does make difficult sometimes getting to additional training outside of our New York State requirements. However, we've sent officers for crisis intervention training. We have 2 officers going to the New York Women in Law Enforcement Conference this week, where there's tons of training that goes on there. We've sent officers to hate crimes and bias incidents training. We have an officer who's attended training with the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, and an interactive training taking place next week, put on by the Westchester County Office for Women. So in addition, this is all in addition to legal updates and first aid and firearms and defensive tactics and bloodborne pathogens and sexual harassment and all of the other requirements for accredited agencies. So those are some of the additionals that we've added in. Number 28, I just had a question mark for because yeah, so that was a push for the County Police Academy to change the way they're running training. They've had an acting commissioner for almost 2 years now, or at least a year and a half. And there hasn't been any opportunity for anybody. There's been no conversation about changing the curriculum. First, that would require changes to DCJS level because they have very strict requirements on the number of hours for the curriculum right now that's required to be taught in an accredited academy. And they are literally minute to minute with no gaps in that in terms of the things that they present. So there really is no productive movement on that particular, but not because we choose not to work on it, just it's not something that's an option for us to do right now. And the last one was with the board, and my eyes are burned out for the day, so board's going to determine next iteration of the committee, I believe that was. Oops. So that's where we are on the list. Next week, I'm slated to meet with the Police Reform Advisory Committee to discuss with them some of the things that we've talked about here tonight. That's what I've got.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for the chief? Omar, first of all, I don't think I apologize. I'm quite ill. I've been basically totally wiped out. I have a very bad case of the flu. I don't want to contaminate anybody. And I keep losing my voice, which, if you know me, is like the worst part of this whole thing. And I'm walking around with a fever right now. So that's why I'm doing this from home. Appreciate everybody's patience. Omar, maybe you and I could sit down and reword some of this before, as an update, like number 28 needs. It's really not an ideation stage. It really is beyond our sphere of opportunity. And I'm assuming, based on what the chief said, until they have a full-time, or not full-time, excuse me, a permanent person in charge, they're not going to make some movement. It's really beyond our influence. Things like that before it goes to the committee. Does anybody have a point of view on number 29?
Yeah, I'll start there. So first, Madam Mayor, I'm sharing with you a tracking document. This is a spreadsheet that mimics what you see on the screen here, what's on our website, but it's just in a Google Sheets form, so it's editable. That's what Jamie and I use to communicate updates. I shared that with you, so we'll use that as the working document for what updates. Once that's ready to go, I'll send that over to you so that we can update the website. So for number 29, the implementation committee. So I want to start with some context. So December 8th, 2021, where were you? I know where you were. You were here. Well, not here, but we were somewhere else. We were at a meeting and we passed the resolution. And the resolution was to have this implementation committee, the police reform, I don't know, I forget the name of it, but it's advisory committee. Thank you. PRAC. How could I forget? The police reform advisory committee. And the function of the committee, according to the resolution that we passed, had 4 parts. Okay, number 1 was to review the plan's progress. Functionally, what we did tonight, but to do that as a group. Number 2, report to the Board of Trustees on the process for implementing the plan's recommendations. So we've had Jackie earlier this year, who is the chair of the committee, come and present in terms of what kind of thoughts they have and the work that the committee has done. But that's the report. Number 3 is recommend changes where necessary. That's kind of an ongoing thing. That's something that they've been doing along the way. And number 4 is evaluate the working committee's suggested recommendations, which recommendations were not adopted by the Board of Trustees in the plan. So if you go to our plan, the one that we sent to the governor's office, at the very bottom, there are additional recommendations that the committee that was working on it, the Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative, presented to us. We discussed, and then we chose not to include as part of the reforms that we would be implementing, but we wanted to memorialize them, and so we have them in that document. So the 4th responsibility of the Police Reform Advisory Committee was to review those additional recommendations and see which of those might the Board of Trustees want to consider. that's the only one that the committee hasn't really done. And so we'll be discussing that at the next meeting, which will be next week, I believe. And if you review those, there's about 11, I think, but a handful of them, maybe 5 or so, are all the same thing, which are related to creating a new body or new board that's related to police oversight, like the police oversight committee, made up of members of the public and so forth. We chose not to move forward with that idea. And so this committee will look at it and say, might we want to see if they're still interested? So I don't know. But my sense is it's the exact same people on the board that were there 2 years ago. And I don't have any indication yet. And I'll open the floor certainly if anybody has any thoughts, if you want to do any of those things. But functionally, that's it. So the committee has basically done the 4 things, other than the 4th thing, which is evaluate those additional recommendations. We'll do that. So we have October, November, December, 3 more months. At that point, it will have been 2 years since the creation of this committee. And one of the recommendations that I'm making is to sunset the implementation committee. At this point, when you take a look at the reforms that have been implemented and those that are not yet implemented, the ones that are not yet implemented are either ongoing or not within the control of the police department, their county, their board of trustees, etc. I think that this should remain as a point of priority for us to continue working on these issues. But in terms of what is the function of this committee, I think from my perspective, the committee's work is done. So I'm going to be presenting, I've already previewed all of these thoughts with the committee. We'll be discussing at the next meeting this idea of sunsetting the committee. And we'll see what happens there. Would love to hear your thoughts or questions you have about any of that.
Anybody have any comments? Board and staff or staff on Omar's request?
Thank you, Omar. So just a point of clarification, not really a questions, just the chief just mentioned that he's meeting with this particular board next week.
Mhm.
So I'm assuming you won't be presenting anything until the next work session, which is in 2 weeks from now, more or less.
Conceivably, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so at that point, because I don't. So my question to you is, because you've been working on this for 2 years now, what other municipalities have done in relationship to something similar? Because not all of the municipalities throughout Westchester created this.
Right.
They just implemented the plan. They just put it pretty much. I'm not sure what they're doing, but have you looked into what other municipalities have done? Are they sort of very similar to what we're doing? And what's the outcome of those municipalities compared to what we have done?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a 2-part answer. Number 1, most are not doing anything. So most municipalities submitted the report, which was a mandatory report to submit to the governor, and that's all that happened. The county does have a police reform group, a working committee that's similar to the police reform advisory committee we have here that's OSSAG specific, that is county-wide. And so there are people that are within the county, maybe whose municipalities haven't done a lot. They've attached themselves to the county group so that they at least have something that they, a group of people that care about similar issues that they can be connected to. So that's number 1. Most municipalities are doing it. Number 2 is that when you compare the kinds of reforms that other municipalities submitted to the state that they were doing, it was basically to catch up with what we were already doing before we submitted the report. So looking at developing a civilian police complaint review board, looking at their policies, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of it was just to get where we were. So we took where we were, and then we're going even further to do all the kinds of things that are here. And so I would put this list in our department against any in the county or the state in terms of who's done the most to reform their police department. And there's not a lot of competition in terms of who's able to name and claim all of the work that's been done the last 2 years and then all the work year 3.
Gotcha. All right. No, that's very helpful, and that's as a point of clarification, that's, we knew that when we first started this, we knew coming in that we have done a lot. Not we, but the police department has done a lot in the previous years to get to where they were. I've just been curious. I guess I'm curious just to see the outcome of the meeting next week, and when you come and present, some of the 11 elements that you brought up, some of the stuff, just as you mentioned, the board, the working board, I'm going to call it, hasn't really changed too much. The same as this board.
Right. It's
You
the
know,
same, yeah, in
so-
terms of our body is exactly the same.
So I was just be curious to see what the recommendations they may have, if any, if any. So, but I'll look forward to hear more about that. But I don't have any specific questions.
So I will, just for your own edification and the record, quickly read what those additional ideas are. Number one is consider an outside investigator to review complaint cases. We actually did that. We actually passed the legislation. That's actually already part of what we're doing. So we've passed that one. That's in addition. Number two is remove a rule that bars the CPCRB from reviewing complaint cases where either the OPD employee or the complainant is the subject of an ongoing criminal investigation. We discussed this. We had Stuart give his thoughts. We had the chief give his thought. And our feeling was it didn't make any sense to change it from what it was. And so that's why we didn't do that. Number three is prohibit including or addressing criminal records for complainants. This would prevent disclosing any information that may sway the CPCRB members before they review all the information necessary to make a determination. We also chose not to change that. So as of right now, those records are included in the complaints. 4 is adopt changes to the village charter and Westchester County Police Act to create a new police board of commissioners that is consistent of 5 community members and 2 board of trustees members, references to code, et cetera, et cetera. So numbers 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 8 are all related to this new commission. Number 9 is the police department should have a 30-day period for public comment before a policy is implemented, except under emergency or immediate need circumstances. We also discussed this. Was this something that would be helpful or relevant? And the feeling was there's not new policies implemented. It would be administratively burdensome in a way that isn't helpful, and all the policies are already public. They're all on the website as well, and so we can discuss, but we don't do that with any other department. And it didn't at the time. We didn't feel like that was something that we wanted to do. Maybe in the last 2 years, feelings have changed. Number 10, and I'm almost done. During interviews, young people in the community alluded to not understanding the role of the school resource officer at Ossining High School and being intimidated by his armed presence. The village of Ossining should assess the continued presence of officers in the school along with the OUFSD and the school community and students. At that point, we decided we're going to support the police department in improving SROs, not in eliminating SROs. We felt like that was an important part of accomplishing other goals. And so at this point, I don't sense an appetite to change that particular arrangement, but that was the recommendation. And then the very last one, number 11, is develop a police officer mental health program. And so that's something that may be addressed in some of this. Maybe Chief, if you have anything that you might want to add to that.
We have a peer wellness program that officers have developed. It's voluntary. We can't, there are ways to compel people to engage in getting help. That's a separate issue, and that deals with personnel. We have officers who put together a voluntary program. It's there, it's available for officers. It's really more of a union issue than it is a job issue, though, so that it remains confidential and voluntary.
Right. So those are the 11 recommendations. We'll be discussing them as a committee next week, but you will have a sense at this point of what might be coming in front of you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'm just curious, the committee itself, do they have Do they feel they want to continue? Do they feel their work is done? Is there a general feeling what they'd like to do?
So we'll find out next week, once we meet. I'm sure that different people will have different opinions. My perspective is our resolution is very concrete. It has 4 parts. Once the committee has satisfied those 4 parts, I don't see a reason for the committee as it is structured and continues to be structured to continue past that point. I feel like after 2 years, the committee has done what it's going to do. That doesn't mean that people that care about this issue should stop researching, advocating, presenting. Our ears are open to ideas. But the question is, should this body, as it exists according to the resolution, continue? And that's what I'm going to keep driving the conversation, because the conversation is not, should we continue reforming the police? That's not the conversation. The conversation is just, should this body as it stands continue to exist?
If the body continued, what would they be doing?
Well, I mean, so we would need a new resolution or additional language to the resolution that would determine that. Conceptually, it could be kind of research and development for police reform ideas, saying like, hey, in Ohio, they're doing this, and in Brazil, they're doing that, and over here in Westchester County, they're doing this. And so we should implement that in Austining as well. I personally don't feel like the best use of folks' time in that way is a village committee to do that. There are already community groups from the NAACP to NU Bill to others that do that kind of advocacy work, and others that want to do that work should. But I personally see it as outside the scope of the resolution, and so that would be an idea to bring to the board. And if the board wanted to evolve the PRAC to be that, then that's a different conversation.
There's also, as you have mentioned, a county organization. I do believe that at least one person from Austining is on there as well. In a broader committee that could deal with sort of the heavy lifting questions rather than a small municipality.
Correct.
That's all municipalities if they wish to participate.
So I'm just gonna wait and see what you come back with, and then we'll just seriously discuss the sunset.
Okay. I'm sort of looking forward to seeing an actual plan, not a conversation about what should be, but something that looks like a plan, otherwise with actionable items, and not that it looks like an advocacy group for a nonprofit of let's educate, let's do this. There are a lot of advocacy groups that do that. That's not what government committees actually do. So I'm looking forward to either a plan or a sunset. Otherwise, my personal point of view is that we have a lot of committees, and I'm not sure that we need to continue having so many committees unless they serve very specific purposes, and that they have plans in place that say, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it, this is why we're doing it, this is why no one else can do it, etc. So let's see what happens. And thank you, Omar. I mean, I think that was a really great presentation. Thank you, Chief, also for presenting on this. I had shared with the chair that we're going to be discussing this today. I was hoping to see some of the committee members, but I think you'll see them next week or the following week. So I think that's where the conversation will go. Okay. Anybody else? Okie dokie. Next.
Okay, our next guest is Nikki Carroll, who's the executive director of government, executive of government relations and strategic partnerships for CGI, and she'll be talking about a street banner program. We've been talking with her for internally for a while now, and we wanted to bring this to the board. It's a very interesting concept and a potentially very cost-effective way to communicate better with our very difficult to, or challenging to communicate with community, just because there's so many different ways that people engage with information. So just another way to meet that challenge. So thank you, Nikki, for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. Would you like me to jump right into it?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to make it quick. We're going to go through a quick overview of a little bit about CGI, who we are, what we do, specifically the details about this program, and then we'll have time for questions at the end. So I'm going to share my screen. Actually, oh, nope, I can. Just making sure I had permissions. All right, can you see this? You should see some moving cars on the left here.
Yes.
Great. Okay, so let's start with a little bit of background information about CGI. We are a New York company headquartered in Rochester, New York. We've been in business for 30 years. We work with over 5,000 communities in all 50 states through our suite of cost-free programs. This banner program is one of multiple. And we have over 50,000 business relationships through those programs as well. And we've gained endorsements from the nation's top organizations that represent municipalities. So the U.S. Conference of Mayors, the National League of Cities, the National Association of Counties, and the National Civic League. We are also partnered and endorsed by NYCOM, the New York Conference of Mayors, which is another really proud point for us. We work very closely with NYCOM villages and cities all across the state. And this program in particular has been a major focus for both us and our partners. I've hosted multiple classes at NYCOM about this program, written articles for the National League of Cities, hosted webinars for national partners. And that's because there's a growing body of evidence that has really demonstrated that community beauty plays a significant role in terms of the success of a city and its residents. Very specifically, community beauty is actually the most significant factor, alongside economic security and good schools, that leads to positive outcomes for your constituents. Beauty leads to increase in sales for businesses, increase in property values for residents, lowered in health complaints and crime rates. And so this program has got a really simple goal. Our goal here is to provide communities a piece of their beautification puzzle, a tool in their toolbox, a way to bring beauty to their community without taking time out of their day and money out of their budget. So I'm going to transition into the details of the program itself. So what you're going to see here are a few examples of banners we've done for some of our participating communities. The banners themselves are the highest quality banners that can be found on the market. They're beautiful, durable, double-sided vinyl banners, and they are custom sized for every community we work with. The artwork that we do is also curated to each community. We have communities that do classic themes like Welcome to Our City with their logo and their colors. We have cities that will highlight organizations, villages that will highlight initiatives, towns that will highlight calls to fame. We work with our communities, making sure that the designs are really specific to what you want. We have experience in creating a veterans program and military programs as well. We've done hometown hero initiatives in multiple communities through this program. And some of our larger cities will utilize this program more strategically, where they serve more of a functional purpose, where you have one city brand, one municipal brand, but you identify different districts underneath that brand. So here you'll see one Rochester city design. It's a city like color scheme, but underneath you'll have different districts that are represented, so that way you can know exactly where you are. It serves a purpose like wayfinding. We also have cities that will engage local artists, whether it be photographers, painters, muralists, graphic designers. One of my favorite programs is Utica, New York. They worked with a local muralist to design their banners. And what I really want to stress to you is that our banners are not cataloged. So what I mean when I say that is my team is never sending you a brochure of banners and saying, pick from one of these, we'll add your logo and your colors. These are curated. We start from scratch with every community we work with, bringing your vision to life from concept to reality. You're not capped in terms of the number of designs that we'll give you. We can do multiple designs for you. We can do design A on street 1, design B on street 2. We can also do a rotating display like you see here with Paramount, California. This is one of a series of 4. It goes explore, dine, shop, experience, explore, dine, shop, experience. We will do as many edits as it takes to get it right, but our average approval time is within 3 to 5 edits of the banners. In regards to our business model is the reason we have all the endorsements that we have, all the national partners and national interest. It basically allows for communities to participate in our programs without having to worry about any sort of financial burden. We create opportunities with our program for businesses to get involved in the program if they want to. What's unique about our initiative is that there is no contingency. If businesses would like to get involved and sponsor a banner, that's great. They can certainly do so. If businesses do not want to get involved, we pay for you to have the banners anyways. And I want to talk that through very specifically. So with Austining, what we've promised is that we have guaranteed that you'll get 25 banners no matter what. If we talk to your business community and all of the businesses within your community tell my team, no, we do not want to sponsor a banner, every single business, then my company will pay for you to have 25 banners. We'll put on them whatever artwork you decided on, and we will give them to you for free. But it's not uncommon that we sell out these programs within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and that's because businesses love this opportunity. Not only do they get the chance to market and promote themselves, but they get the chance to support their city. This bottom section of the banner highlights the name and logo of a business usually. Some communities will prefer the simplicity of just a business name like this banner here. Either way, works like an Adopt a Highway or an Adopt a Brick program, and it's totally up to you what they look like. And just a quick statistic for you, studies have shown that over 70% of people will pay attention to an outdoor media campaign like this one. That's a really tangible benefit you provide your businesses over non-local options. If you have 10,000 people that visit your city over the course of a weekend, 7,000 of them would pay attention to this campaign. That's a real advantage, a competitive edge over non-local options and larger businesses and corporations that are not a part of your Austining community. And we're very proud of that. We've worked really hard to design this program, keeping in mind both the benefits of the municipality and the businesses alike. We've done so by with our work with Main Street America, keeping in mind the benefits of mom and pop shops, small Main Street businesses. So this is a program with a lot of intention and a lot of benefits for cities and businesses alike. Other things I want to note to you is that we really say we have the big threes here at CGI, the 3 frees. It's cost-free, it's risk-free, and it's hands-free. This program is designed to be very, very simple in terms of implementation. So that includes installation and maintenance. We would contract out somebody local in your community, put some dollars back into the area, put the banners on the poles, maintain them for needs, take them off the poles. We'll also pay for and provide all needed bracketing and hardware, so that way the banners can actually get on a pole. We'll also insure every single banner. If a banner ever gets damaged, we replace it within a timely manner. And then we also donate extra banners to community organizations like your police department, your fire department, and city hall. We also want to note to you the duration of a program like this. We recommend a 3-year partnership for the majority of our communities, but since this is a physical product, you would not be expected to hang one set of banners throughout your time working with us. Banners actually have a lifespan of about 18 months. So with our program, we replace our banners 6 months before that expiration date. So every 12 months, we take down the previous set of banners and we put up a freshly printed, freshly redesigned set for you. So this has 2 benefits. One, your banners are always in the best shape possible. The ink's not fading, the ends aren't fraying, they're always gorgeous. And equally important, as your priorities change, so can the designs of the banners. We reevaluate what you want to see in them every year, and you can take them in new and creative directions. In terms of what you need to do to move forward, what we've already asked for is that you have to have at least 25 polls for the program. That's our only qualification number. You also have to be ready to give direction for the artwork, a letter of introduction, which I believe we already have, and a signed agreement as well. So all of these things are notated with my contact, Jamie. We also have a summary here. This is reflected in that same agreement that I mentioned previously. These are the similar bullet points, but this is a start to finish overview of everything we've discussed. So I will keep this on the screen so that way you can reference this as you ask me any questions that you might have. This is the program right in front of your screen in bullet pointed format. So happy to address anything anybody has regarding the initiative.
Okay, thank you so much, Nikki. Appreciate time. I have to say, you are a great model in how to do succinct and informative presentations. I have a feeling
Thank you.
I'm feeling it's not your first one.
It is not. It's almost like I do this for a living.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I really do appreciate. I have some questions, but let me open it to the rest of the board folks. Do you have any questions for Nikki? Please. I can't see anybody.
I can start. I'll go quick.
Yeah, I can't see you guys right now because the presentation's up, so I can't call anybody. So whoever, just shout out. Go ahead.
No problem. Thank you for joining us for the presentation, Nikki. This looks great. I would love to see something like this implemented in Austining. the question that I have is about cost to the businesses for the advertisement. Can you share what either the fixed cost is or what the range would be?
Yes, so including everything that we put into this program, insurance costs, installation costs, design fees, all of that, at cost for us, where we make literally no profit, is $5.95 per banner. The highest price we've ever done in any community ever is $995 per banner. We reserve that for our wealthiest, most competitive communities. Communities like Rolling Hills Estates, California. It's one of the top 10 wealthiest communities in the country. We usually fall on the lower end of that spectrum in a lot of our municipal villages in New York. So around $6.95 per banner. And that is a starting price point. And what I mean by a starting price point is we create incentives to drop that price lower. If an individual sponsors 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 banners, there's a huge discount for that per banner as they increase the quantity. There's also incentives if you pay in full upfront rather than utilizing a monthly payment plan. And additionally, if you're comfortable, we have some communities that will allow businesses to sponsor multiple years of the program for a discount as well. So that's entirely within your purview to decide. And then finally, what we do in our communities is we create this price point. And if we are wrong in assuming that this will be a successful price point and we're getting pushback from businesses, we will drop our price point until it makes sense for the business community to get involved. Because if we don't, we're going to literally pay out of our own pocket for all of this. So that's why it makes sense for us to find that price point that eliminates any barrier of entry for your businesses. And $6.95, $7.95 has been extremely successful. I've had a lot of communities really shocked at how quickly we sell out, even at the higher end of the price points. But you have to think of it in terms of the kind of exposure you're getting. A newspaper ad is about $500 for a single run. That's one-time view in a newspaper versus 24/7, 365 in a program like this. It's less than $3 a day. Billboard, similar exposure, $2,000 a month. So we find that our price points are very successful.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. It's about $58 per month.
Correct.
Yeah, so that seems reasonable. Yeah, that's all for me. Thanks.
Anybody else?
Yes, thank you, Nikki. So I have more like a follow-up with what Omar asked you. So you talked about a 3-year plan, more or less, so a 3-year commitment. Now, for a business to sponsor this, is that I'm gonna make it $600 the average for now at least. Is that the $600 that will cover for the 3 years?
1 year. It's a 1-year sponsorship for the businesses, and that's actually with a lot of intention. Usually we have the reason why we do it mostly is because if a business starts by participating in year 1, but maybe they're expanding year 2 and they no longer have a marketing budget to accommodate for something like this, we don't want them to be locked in to a price for over the course of 3 years. So one price per year, and they get to reevaluate their position in the program each year. But it's actually more for the opposite. As we start with a year 1 program, sometimes businesses might be a little hesitant, they're not quite sure, and then we go to year 2 and they are so excited to get involved if they passed on the first year because they've seen the banners up and hanging for a full 12 months. So our numbers usually increase. So this creates a lot of choice and flexibility for your businesses to decide yearly if this program serves them.
Great, thank you. So now that makes me a follow-up question to that.
Mhm.
So you said that pretty much every year you replace the banners, correct?
Mhm.
So let's say a business sponsors for a year,
Mhm.
but doesn't want to do that the following year.
Sure.
So the replacement of that particular business banner, you just is a removal at that point, correct?
It
You're
would
not
be-
replacing that.
Yeah, so every year we start the program from scratch. So what we kind of take down all the banners and we put up a brand new set of banners. And the way that it actually works is a very modern approach. I'm going to show you exactly what one of our websites looks like. So we actually do a full digital media campaign when it comes to this program. So I'll show you Belleville, Illinois. Belleville, Illinois is one of our live programs right now. If you scroll down here, I'm just going to pop all the way down. You'll see that there is a physical map here. So businesses get to go in every year and select their poll location. So a green dot is a poll that's available. A red dot is reserved and already paid for by a business and taken up. So this allows for your businesses to have a lot of choice in terms of their locations. Every year we wipe this map clean and start from scratch. So they would all be green and your businesses have a new chance to pick their locations and their banners. They do so by going online here by clicking add to cart and checking out. So this is a really straightforward initiative. You can see the designs that were done here. You can see that this program has 75 individual sponsors. Most of these sponsors here in the small community in Illinois, they sponsored somewhere between 3 to 5 banners. This is over almost 200 banner program that we've sold out in like 3 weeks. So it's a very successful initiative in that sense, and the businesses get the choice of both participation and location.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So now you also talked about, banner program for veterans and, so is that a different price tag to that, or that's still the $600 more?
That's the same. It's the same price tag. And with that program, the community can submit veterans to be entered into a queue. Businesses and people who choose to sponsor their family member get first access to the program. But if you want to submit, like say your grandfather or your brother or whoever, and you want to enter them into the program and you don't want to necessarily pay for it, oftentimes businesses will sponsor 5 to 10 banners with the intention of donating some of those extra veteran images to the community. So sometimes you'll get community members who can highlight their family member without ever having to, pay a cent for it. And once we take those banners down, we do give those banners to the community members whose family is represented in the banner itself.
So thank you for that, because that other communities that I'm aware, at least that the sponsor, I believe, one time, I could be totally wrong, and I'll double check this myself tomorrow, but I think there's a one-time fee, and their removal and their relocation, I guess, or replacement, I guess, goes within the one-time fee that I think at least 2 other communities they do that right now. So when you remove them, you don't put them back.
No, because they're no longer of quality. So the goal of this program is beautification. I said during the presentation, banners do have a lifespan of 18 months. It is a physical product. It's exposed to the elements. It does not look the same the first day you put it on as the last day you take it off. So our intention with replacing the banners every year is to achieve that really crucial goal of beautification. That's not being served if we continue to hang the same set of banners over the course of a series of months, especially in New York. Yeah.
I think that's well, I know there's been a lot of community engagement in the social media portion, and I have talked to Maddie as well about that in regards to that. To me, is something important. So, and I think the businesses is great. I think the concept is great. And I'm just a little concerned about the veteran program that I would like to see to be something more substantial, I guess. But we can figure that out, I think, at some point if we decide to move forward with this. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your question.
Anybody else?
Oh, yeah, I have just a question. When you stated that we get 25 banners free.
No matter what, correct.
So can you elaborate on what you mean by free?
We pay for them out of our own pocket. So I'm going to put this up here. So this is a guarantee. So that way, if you are worried that you might only get a handful of businesses involved in the program, you're not going to get some dinky display where it's like 2 to 5 banners and it just doesn't look as nice. We will guarantee to supplement however many banners required to get you to that 25 minimum. So say, for example, you have 10 businesses that sponsor your program. CGI will pay out of our own pocket to give you an additional 15 to get you to 25. If you have 15 sponsors, we will supplement 10. If you have 20 sponsors, we will supplement 5. If you have 0 sponsors, we'll pay for all 25 banners. You get 25 banners regardless of the business participation. In excess of 25, the number of banners here is determined by the number of sponsors. So 100 sponsors is 100 total banners.
So
you're not getting 25 free, Bob. You're getting 25 guaranteed. And then the countdown starts. They just don't want to put 5 up or 7 up because it looks measly. It might be embarrassing. So it starts counting down once they get, if they get sponsors, it's not free. It's just somebody else.
I understand that. So if we get 10 businesses, the other 15 are on the village.
No, the other 15 are paid for by CGI.
They're free.
But what about the design that goes on there?
Great question. So that's usually highlighting community organizations. So police departments, fire departments, Chamber of Commerce, Main Street organizations, United Way, Red Cross, Boys and Girls Club. You get to decide which goes in that bottom section of the banner. Sometimes it is city department or a city logo down in that bottom section. That's entirely up to you. We donate those extra banners that we are paying for, those 15, whatever, however many banners we're supplementing. We allow you to highlight nonprofits, community organizations on those banners in the bottom section.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I'll put that summary right back up for you.
Okay, anybody else before I
Yes.
ask my questions? Dana?
Do you have in-house design folks?
Yep, we have a staff of about 10 graphic artists at your disposal. And you work with one of my team members. Her name is Molly. She's a community relations manager. She is your go-to gal for everything. So she's the segue between all the different elements of the program. She would communicate with our managing graphic designer, who then works with her team to bring your vision to life. You can certainly request meetings with our managing team regarding graphic design if you're looking for a more professional approach, but it's a really streamlined process and a full team of professionals.
This is both public art and commerce, right? This is graphic design publicly displayed with advertisements underneath.
Correct. And it is.
And this is something you do around the country.
Correct. Yes, we do this in
I've seen this. Yeah.
Well, 49 states. Hawaii is considering their program right now. Honolulu is going through the council currently to just make sure it meets their very strict regulations. So 49 states, but hopefully 50 soon. Yes.
I mean, beautification is a word I have an issue with in a way. But that's neither here nor there. It's my problem. But it feels like the placemaking committee ought to at least be involved in knowing what this is, because this is a new committee. You wouldn't know about it. You know, this is one that is basically devoted to public art and the creation of public spaces and how they look and that sort of thing. And this feels, frankly, I'm going to tell you, you know, I've seen these programs and they're great. I don't know if our village streets are should be avenues for advertising and how that's going to look. I mean, you know, I love local businesses and stuff. I don't know if we want to do the same thing, the same type of thing everybody else does, is all. And it just feels cookie cutter to me. And I would want it to feel very specific and unique to Ossining. The other thing is that our village historian has been urging us to do a Hometown Heroes banner program. Is that something she could work with you?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course, yeah. And in regards to the designs, you get full control of them. The sponsor section could be text only, no logos, so it doesn't feel very a commercial, just the business's name. Like if it's like Mark's Pizza Shop, it would say Mark's Pizza Shop rather than a logo. And it can also be as small as 20% of the banner instead of a full 30. So we work with communities that might have more specific preferences regard to that business section. Obviously, I want to note to you, the restrictions on that section do lead to less successful campaigns. Not to say we still won't sell out, but there is obviously a strong correlation between stronger sponsorship sections and successful campaigns. And that top section as well is always curated. It would never be cookie cutter. Our team starts from scratch with every community we work with. We've never used a template in our lives. We take it from complete verbal concept to visual creation. It is a complete unique process, every community.
Okay. Well, again, I'm gonna advise the members of the placemaking committee to watch this presentation, and we're gonna discuss it at a meeting. It's not the kind of thing we would normally do because we do more collaborative. We're gonna do more collaborative community-based projects, and this feels like an advertising campaign, which is not, but which is fine. I mean, but
I'm not sure if you heard, you can incorporate local artists in this program. Like Utica, New York, for example, engaged a muralist. We've had communities do art contests. I've worked with high schools to have students design banners. There's a lot of ways that we can incorporate your community into the program as well. So certainly something to keep in mind. If you'd like to use our team of professionals, they are at your disposal. But the professionals will also help guide a community founded project as well, more of a grassroots approach. So all of these things are things we've done before.
Well, that's good to hear because, you know, I don't feel that things like this that have such an impact on the visual appearance of our village should come from the top down necessarily.
Sure.
And that's what this feels like. I'm certainly, you know, I certainly open to this, and I think they can be very attractive and certainly bring color, which is something I would love us to see downtown and on our streets, is bring a bit more color. So, but those were just the questions I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. So I think at the end of the day, though, Dana is right. It doesn't matter how you make it look and how pretty it is. It's an advertising campaign. The banners are commerce oriented. I happen to like that. Somebody else may not. Even if you put a nonprofit or if you put whatever. I mean, you know, if it's a 75th anniversary, 175th anniversary of a village or a town, those are always nice. But essentially, it's the banner part, the box on the bottom that pays for the campaign. I'm in marketing. I happen to like this stuff, but I totally hear what Dana's saying as well. So we could engage somebody to do the artistic work. So what I wanted to ask is about the graphics. Is it a singular, like, graphic designs with up to 4 options that are rotated, done by the village with the help of your graphic designers? Does a business sit there and say, well, I want it to look this way, I want it to look that way? How many options do you roll out with a program?
You have no cap in terms of the number of designs we'll provide you. If you would like to do 10 different designs, that's fine. We will provide professional recommendations to make this program the most impactful. Obviously, if you have tons of different imagery, tons of different designs, that is going to
ridiculous.
Yes, it creates
That would look totally ridiculous. There has to
Absolutely.
be an
Yeah.
overriding design that represents the village of Ossining. Otherwise, the thing looks like a mishmash, and we've been through that already.
Correct. So we do recommend less. Less is better. Less is more
Yes,
impactful.
understood. I would guess that it has to have a look and feel of a village, of a river town. Maybe the veterans one could be a little bit different, could play off. It's probably like two renditions. So the businesses don't choose. All they get to do is choose location and
Correct.
copy.
They
Okay.
see this. This is the
Okay.
banner
I
designs
get that.
that have been chosen by the city. This is your option. If there is a series of designs, we will put them in the map. So if they have a preference, they can select a poll with the pre-assigned art if they have a preference of one of
Right, got
three.
that.
But yeah,
I got
that's it.
that. So they put that on, they choose the poll, the village gives you the number of polls accessible and where they are, you put it on the map. And the businesses and or, because nonprofits have to pay for it too. I mean, a nonprofit doesn't mean you don't pay for goods and services. If a nonprofit, we have a couple hundred of them, want their name up there, who they go online, they don't call the village. The village really has nothing to do with it. The monies go directly to you 100%. There's no percentage given to the village. There's no profit sharing, nothing like that. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, this is something the village would not have to lift a finger for, which is the intention behind the letter as well. This letter here is the best way that we found to remove the villages or the community's involvement in having to validate this program and to field any questions. This letter, we send a template version of it to every community. It can be worded to your liking. This is the letter that they decided to sign. And it's your opportunity to communicate the relationship between my company and your community. And this is going to remove businesses calling the village asking if this is real or asking questions. It'll help lay out the relationship between our two organizations.
Okay, but it also means there's no profit sharing by the village. Like some banner programs have profit sharing aspects of them. This is not. This is fully
We can do
And-
profit sharing, but when we do profit sharing, we do increase the cost of sponsorship. So that is ultimately a decision that needs to be made, I suppose, by your staff. If you'd prefer to take on the burden a little bit more in terms of not having that profit sharing, so that way the cost of businesses is lower, versus if you wanted to make this more of a profit driven program, we would offer 2.5% revenue share. And that would have to be reflected in the cost of the businesses as well, because there is such a small margin of profit on our end for this program in particular. We do only invite roughly 50 communities per year to participate in this initiative because there's such a small profit margin and because it is so involved. So
Why do you keep referring to this, Nikki, as this program? You have other programs in place that we're not looking at tonight? Or
yes, actually we do. We have a video program that is a
I
similar.
looked at, yeah, that's what I thought we were gonna be seeing tonight, but okay.
Yeah, so that's us as well. I work with Andrea, who is another executive on the video side of things. Jamie had talked to her. I believe we wanted to get this one rolling first. I believe a good reason for that is because filming dates will make more sense summer next year. We are already pretty much booked through the fall at this point. So when we get the video program running for your village, you're gonna want it in the summer when your grass is green, flowers are blooming. So the rollout makes a little more sense to have the video program midway next year. But I defer to Jamie and her decision to prioritize this program first.
Okay, so our folks prioritize this as the first program rather than the video. So those are your two programs, the banners and the video?
Correct. Those are our two cost-free programs. And both of them have the same business model, and both of them are popular with communities where they'll do both at the same time. So not uncommon for us to work on both with a community.
And how long has the video program with the town of Austining been in effect?
I am not quite sure. Let me see if I can look that up.
That's okay. I can
Okay.
find. We
Sure.
don't need- I don't need to spend your time on that.
My
I
source is
think
still
we're
be
gonna
more
see
than
that
10 years,
aspect
Madam
actually.
Mayor.
Yeah, we've been doing this program since 2000, the video program since 2007, this banner program since 2001 in the wake of 9/11. Likely because you're a village in New York State, we probably, as someone said, work with you for over 10 years.
Right.
All right. Thank you.
I just want to add that, I don't really want a process where the village doesn't have to do anything. I don't understand that. The
You
whole
can be as
point of,
involved as you would like. It's entirely up to you how involved you want to be, but we don't require anything of you. Your preferences are our preferences.
I think that there's a sort of nuance here, just if I may, Nikki. The village has total content control. The village has total control of where they're placed. The free element, or the element that is actually compelling from a village standpoint, is it's not incumbent on any village staff to hang the banners or to
No,
remove
which
the
is great.
banners.
Yeah.
Or find the sponsors. So, and
Or negotiate with
there's-
businesses, negotiating.
right.
with
So the
businesses
things that would be
not easy.
onerous for staff and time consuming
no,
for staff
I
would not
get that.
be, but I think in terms of content, Nikki, and location, that's 100% the village.
Completely within your control. And additionally, you can control which businesses we prioritize, and you can remove businesses from our outreach. We have many communities in California, Michigan, New York, where marijuana is legal, who remove the entire industry of marijuana from our program. We won't reach out to any marijuana industry related things. We even have more conservative communities that will remove tobacco industries or alcohol industries. As a mainstay of our program, we are apolitical. No political entities would ever be allowed to advertise on the banners or be contacted for advertisement. We also would never allow gentlemen's clubs, adult stores, very family friendly. And if you're in litigation with a business, or maybe a few businesses are hyper competitive and it creates drama and you just want them removed, that's fine. If you have a list of city vendors that you want prioritized, great, we will happily oblige. So we work with you as much or as little as you would like. Whatever control you want, you have.
Understood. Thank you, Nikki.
Certainly.
All right. Anybody else have any comments or questions?
So I have a question for, I guess, for staff and also for the board. So what is the ask right now? Because it seems like, and for my understanding, the few conversations, or at least one conversation that I had with Maddie, is this avenue, this communications between you guys and our staff has been going on for a couple months. So what are you guys asking us right now to do?
After talking to Nikki for some time now and evaluating it, looking at everything we're doing, we see this as I don't know that why we would certainly want it to look nice. I don't know if we're looking at this, or at least the way we were originally looking at it. It could be many different things, as a beautification campaign, as much as it could be a public awareness campaign. So as we're going forward, so we know that you know, we have, you know, whether it's a Keep an Austin Clean campaign. I know we've tried that in the past. I think that the banners were kind of small and hard to read, and it was a little bit of a convoluted message, but something like that could be done in a targeted area where we're having an issue. The other thing that really made it very compelling for us is we're going to have things going on in Austin over the next 5 years in terms of construction. So similar to the signs that we put up, that, you know, we've started to put up when we're doing major projects, these banners could be in, you know, the Market Square area, talking about the projects that we're doing there, things like that, as a way to augment what we're doing in social media and the good job that Jamie's doing, but just a different way. And we just thought this might be a good opportunity. And in that regard, it could serve as a function where it's an advantage, because we're in a sense providing a relatively affordable advertising avenue for local businesses, because we could prioritize our local businesses, that could be appealing, and something that we wouldn't be able to do as a municipality. So there were a couple of things we were looking at it, and because the cost seemed right, we thought it was, you know, after evaluating it and going back and forth and trying to identify what would make most sense, we wanted to bring it forth to the board. And if the board's agreeable, then we can have further conversations with Nikki about specifically what types of messaging, and have some, you know, discussion about that, because it could be almost anything. So
I'm sorry. So to me, my concern is some of the stuff that you just brought up, Karen. I will hate to use or waste resources advertising what's going on in the village in the next 5 years, to use it for village purpose. I mean, we have other avenues to do that. I will hate to waste a banner to do that. I would rather use a business to do
just
that.
ideas. So,
Okay.
you know, a
But
lot of different things we've
The
thought
problem
about.
with the problem with the concept is, because we are going to be, hopefully within the next 5 years, a lot of stuff is going to be happening, and a lot of construction is going to be happening. To me, that's going to obstruct the point of this program, because a lot of the stuff is happening downtown. A lot of the stuff is happening around all that area. A lot of the stuff happens on 9A and 9 Route 9. So if we implement something like this while construction is going on, it's just competing with that. So to me, right now, and you know, based on the cost, and I was just sharing something with Bob here, some of the, you know, and I agree with Dana and what the historian is doing. The veterans banners, I think, is something that we need to do. And the cost, for me, it becomes a cost because the people, family members pay for that. And the cost of $600 in comparison to what other municipalities are doing is half of that. So to me right now, I'm gonna say is a no.
So I'll comment on some of those points. So what I like about this particular, and you know, about this particular program is the flexibility. Because what I can envision is there was a slide. Nikki, could you put up the 3 arrows that show kind of the 3-year campaign?
Yes.
Yeah. So thanks. So I can totally see, and I don't have the DRI project map totally in my head, but let's say that sometime next year is going to be North Highland Avenue, and road diet is going to be happening. So now we have this like whole new corridor that has new lines, and because it's not construction and painting lines, it won't take forever. Once that is done, I can see us saying, okay, that's one place where we want to really advertise, hey, it's a new 9A or whatever. It's a new North Highland Avenue, and we want to like really bring attention to it. And that's one place where we would really put banners, and then maybe not so much in Market Square if that's where there's a lot of construction happening. But then by year three, we have as an example, the multimodal parking facility is done, and like that's like a whole new big thing that is happening, but it's like behind, it's not super obvious where that is. So that can also be a place where we're redirecting banners kind of in that direction to say, hey, from Olive Opera House all the way through to where that is, that we want to really bring attention to. So that is one reason, is the flexibility year to year, where they're placed and what is it. Number two, three, and I'll be quick. Number two is the kinds of issues that we typically have with ideas that we bat around like this is, all right, so we're not going to put up this new flagpole, but like this thing is going to be there for decades or centuries, God knows how long. This thing, like by design, after 3 years, it doesn't exist anymore. So it's not a permanent decision we're making in terms of what it's going to look like. Same thing with the hometown heroes idea, although I don't know exactly how those work. I know those have to come down ultimately because of the same reasons, but if the hometown heroes idea is, it's like perpetually, like they will always be there. It's just putting new folks on.
And this application process and all this other stuff,
Yeah,
you know, sponsoring,
Have
yeah.
Joyce come and talk to us.
Well, the Hometown Heroes usually runs, that program usually runs from Memorial Day to November, I think, Veterans Day. And then they come down.
Then they come
down. Then they
Oh,
come down.
They don't
Yeah,
stay up year round.
Yeah,
Right.
no.
Oh,
It's
got
not-
it.
it's not a
That's
year-round thing.
That's an interesting difference.
So, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. And to me, it's like, you can do both. So if the idea is that the hometown hero one, the families pay for it and they get to keep the thing, who's to say that we can't do that in one place in the village and do this in another place with a different function? So that has the advertisement, it's a little bit of a different flavor maybe, and like that feels more like a different thing. And so I also don't see them as mutually exclusive. We can do both if we.
And I don't disagree with you. I like the program itself as a
Yeah.
concept. I think it's a great concept. To me, we're not there yet, because again, it goes back to a little bit of what we talked about before. It's like we have all these pieces and we're not really tying it together. Even now with a map, you know, some of the stuff is still missing. So for me to integrate a program on this road and not make them part of the community, because we are trying to connect all these points. You know,
Right.
we are talking about Crown Avenue with the Highland Avenue, you know, in Main Street, Spring Street area, you know, so all these have to be, even like the train station. We're trying to connect all this. If I put in pieces, one here, another piece here, we're not connected.
Yeah.
You know, so that to me, we're not ready yet. Again, not that 25 banners for free, I'll take those any day, you know, but right now, I don't think we are there yet. Again, we have so many, and even though, again, it says that the staff is not as involved and the labor is not involved, but we know that that's not going to happen. We know that we're going to have staff involved. We're not going to have maybe some board members involved as well. So it is going to be time consuming. And because we have all these projects happening, to me, right now is not the time. Now, I'm not saying it's not a program that I wouldn't want to be, you know, be part of Austin, just not right now.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks. Karen, can I ask a question on, are we allowed to put any of these on Route 9?
I'd have to double check, but my thought is that likely we probably could, because I know that.
We used to have.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't, you know, I don't imagine, because we're putting them on posts. It's just where we have places to put them. So typically they would go on our streetlight signs and things like that. So, you know, I'm trying to visualize on Route 9 where we have those type of posts. That would probably be the limitation, as opposed to not being able to do it. You know, I think that, you know, these are all good points. I think that having this would be most effective if we had, you know, a sort of a strategy in place and you know, a more targeted location. But I'd have to double check on what would be available on Route 9 to post on.
Right, so that would be interesting to me, because my vision of these things is, in regards of the many studies quoted, I mean, no offense, I've seen these before. the studies done are, from my perspective, not really relevant. This is totally an advertising campaign, but I do think that, and I don't think they're beautification events because they're banners. It's like a lot of advertising. I do think though, with the right graphic design that talks about things like welcome to Ossining or Ossining's on the move, to have a theme that's very warm, that's about us. It's too bad we're not coming up to some very special anniversary because I think that would make it ideal. We like welcome home because we're basically predominantly residential. When you really come
Let
down.
me
to-
ask you a question. The 200th anniversary of Sing Sing prison is in 2 years, 1 year and 1.5 years. Is that something we'd put on it?
Well, that could be,
That's a big sell. That's the biggest anniversary we've got coming up, to be honest. with you.
right, that would be on the 3-year plan, probably later on as a graphic design. But something warm, something fuzzy, banners, you see them for about 3 seconds, you're driving through most of this. So, and they're not big the way billboards are in the city. So, the human eye picks up very quickly. But if we could put it on Route 9, up on Croton, where the businesses would really like some attention, down to the Arcadian, where some of the businesses there, and some more than, in my opinion, than downtown. This would be needed on those other areas. That I think would be a very effective use of banners. Once we want to maybe look at graphics, to talk about some major projects or something, yeah, I wouldn't use them though to be a communication vehicle. That's not really what they're designed to do. They're either commercial advertising or they are more than a feel good, but they're like a welcoming environment, like welcome to my town, like why you like we're here, right? Because a lot of people in Route 9 are driving through, they don't even realize they're driving through Ossining. And it's very pretty up there. So I actually am a big supporter of this. I do hear what Manny's saying about chewing more than we can bite right now with the amount of projects we have, because everything does take time. Case in point, apparently, you guys have already been discussing this for 2 months. I wasn't aware of that. So time has already been spent to investigate, to look, to bring this forth to the board. So there is always some work. I do like that it's a turnkey system. That's the biggest selling factor here. And I love that it's insured. We've had problems in the past with banners, with the wind. That's like a very big deal. I know you underscored it twice. I'm going to underscore it a third time. In the Northeast, with the wind gusts, taking care of these banners and the beating they take from the weather, they just look raggedy after a year. So I'm glad that's a big selling point. It's always going to look fresh, and we can change it. Year 1 could have a theme. Let's say welcome to Ossining. Year 2 could be Ossining on the move. Year 3 could be 200 years, and maybe the museum is up by then. I don't know, because I don't know what's going to be in 3 years. So I like that. I mean, there are definite elements of these that I think make it a seller. The thing with the veterans, Nikki, that you're hearing is what I'm hearing, and I'm not that familiar. Just from what I've heard, you're not that competitive with another program that's very specific to veterans that looks and feels and smells like your program.
It does, but they don't have a lot of the installation and the insurance and the yearly updates. So is a cost, but you exchange for that cost less more labor on your part. Your public works department will have to install them, maintain them, replace them if they get damaged.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, I'm going to disagree with you at that point, because your program will charge, I want to say $600 for one time and removal. And then if they want to put it back another year, it's going to be another $600.
But
So
that's for the advertising, not that's
correct.
literally, but that's buying advertising.
that's
space.
still, there are, and again, I just saw the application for another municipality, and yes, is the price is definitely lower. And I will have to educate myself and what the municipality does for this kind of stuff. So that, I think, for my recollection, is not a cost for the municipality either, because all that stuff has been voluntary as well. So price and in that sense, I don't think is very competitive. Again, I'm gonna for this kind of program right now in general, forget about the veterans program for a minute. But for this, I'm not in favor right now. And I think that's what staff is looking for right now.
That's okay, but that wasn't the point I was making. So the point I'm making is Nikki, there's another program. We're gonna have to have staff look at that other program. We're gonna have to do an apples to apples. Your company is gonna have to sit there and say, here's why we can match that or we can't match that. And I think that's fair. And that would be my suggestion. Or we'll have to say we could do both programs, but that means the banners need to be sized about we'd have to make some adjustment because there seems to be an interest in the other program, which I don't think is like yours. I mean, it's not exactly an apple to apple, timing wise and all that. But what I'm pointing to you is what you're hearing is there's something else that our historian's been looking at, and not only her. There have been people before her, the vets. She's not the first one. This has come up in front of the board a number of times over the past decade. So there might be another, and there might be a third program out there that somebody
There are
assumes.
many, yeah, hometown hero programs are one of
So
many.
I assume that people come to you and say, look, what about this? So, but that's a conversation to be had. But I'm glad we're having this conversation. I think the question on the table is, what does the board need to do? We probably, it feels like people want to look to discuss this a little further. I don't think we're going to need to do that tonight because we've discussed it enough. Everything you have is online. You also have a digital program, a video program that I had seen that was in our email that was sent out as part of the agenda that was sent out about like that the town has already done and that we will probably be discussing. So we'll look at that as well to see if that makes sense for the village and hear more about that at a different time. And I apologize. I thought that was the program we were hearing about tonight. So I was a little
no
off center.
Oh, can I just make I
Please,
just want
Rob.
to ask a question. Typically on a pole, what's your typical height that you mount these banners, or is that all depending on the size?
It doesn't necessarily depend on the size. It does depend on the size of the banner board. It more depends on the size of the pole, the height of the pole, as well as distance from the sidewalk and to the street itself. There's obviously a certain clearance we want to be aware of if there's going to be any sort of overhang regarding safety, as well as we don't want them to be in the way of pedestrians if they're sidewalk side. So
Right.
we'll factor in the height of your poles, the width of the bars if you have fixed hardware. If you don't have fixed hardware, our hardware is about 2 feet wide on average for the width, and then the height is determined by a formula considering all of those safety factors.
Okay, that's a great thing. Thank you. But
Certainly.
our downtown village has decorative poles that are at best 10 to 12 feet high.
Sure.
There's no issue with that.
No.
And being
We've done, yeah. We would recommend about a 4-foot banner on something like that usually, and especially if there's not a lot of overhanging decorative poles tend not to. But we would take a look at your individual poles and make a formal recommendation based on size.
Okay,
Right.
and just to the mayor's point about people driving through, the signs are like lawn signs, 3 to 5 second sign, people driving through. That's it.
Sure. And we can do multiple programs, by the way. We have done many communities where a veterans program is in one area and our program is in another. So certainly not something uncommon or that we're unfamiliar with.
Yeah, I mean, we could actually create like a veterans, like not like an area or something. Anyway, these are details.
Sure.
Okay, we have other things on the agenda. Nikki, thank you so much. I'm sure folks, Jamie sounds like your contact person. I'm
Yes.
sure we will have more commentary. I very much appreciate your time. If there are any thoughts you have after the meeting that you forgot to tell us, please feel free to email and we will follow up.
Certainly.
I assume that the timing is it's a rolling calendar. There's no timing issue. Am I correct?
Correct. Yes. Yeah, this is a rolling calendar. We're happy to work with you at your pace.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you
My
so much.
Thank you. My contact information's here. Jamie also has it. You're welcome to shoot me over any questions that you might think of afterwards. But thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it and enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Nikki. Next on our agenda, we have a resident, Brian Granoff at 11 Garden Street, who is requesting a license agreement to work with the village within the village right of way on his stairway to the front of his house. So with that, I will turn it over to Corporation Counsel.
Thank you. Jamie, can you bring that up, please? Good evening, folks. Mr. Granoff is the owner of 11 Garden Street. He initially wanted to repair the stairs that lead from the entrance to his home. Garden and Terrace are one of those streets you may be familiar with, where there are steps actually at street level going up to the sidewalk, and then there are the steps going up to his home. Well, okay, why don't we, yeah, well, let me start with what you're looking at, right?
Sorry, I didn't know. I thought you were gonna tell me.
Okay, what are we looking at?
I don't know. It's like my daughter is running the computer here tonight, but yes, it is. Okay, what we have here, what this outlines, the corner is the corner of terrace and garden. What you see is one set of stairs going up. There is also a second set of stairs on the corner that you can't see there. Plus, there is a small retaining wall that goes along terrace. Now, the house is actually 11 garden, but one of the things that Mr. Granoff is proposing is to repair the retaining wall that you're observing there, portions of his driveway, which are there, as well as the two sets of stairs that are there. This is not the only sets of stairs he wants to fix. This is all within the village's right of way. So that's the reason this is coming before you. In addition, Jamie, if you could scroll to a couple of more photos. Let me see if I can get you this. Keep going.
Right there for one.
This one or the other.
Yeah.
Is that like a driveway?
Well, it's actually not a driveway. What it
thing?
was, Con Edison was doing work, and that's how they left it.
No, but that driveway, that, it doesn't look like there's a driveway.
It's not really a driveway, Mayor. It is what when Con Ed was doing the work on Terrace, that's how they left it up going toward the sidewalk. He proposes to repair that.
Was that retaining wall all the way straight through?
I do not know. He didn't indicate that to me as possible, but I don't know.
He's on, isn't he?
Okay, is he on?
Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Granoff is on. Excellent, even better.
No, I have,
Right.
I'm just asking, is there a driveway to this house?
Well, we're allowing him to talk so he can come in and join us.
Mr. Granoff, if you can, please turn on your camera and unmute. and
There he
you'll-
is.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Brian, the mayor had a question if there is a driveway for the house.
No, there's no driveway here. So, first of all, I know we're going a little bit into the second set of the
Right.
questioning, but initially, what I wanted to do was create a brick staircase in the front of my house. Do we have those pictures? I
think
know
we
it's on
do.
the bottom attachment. It says like message,
Jamie, if you go to the last thing that's in the agenda,
because I think it's appropriate to start there.
you got it. Yeah, if you go to
Oh,
that.
yeah, it's an inquiry. I think it
Open
should
that
be
up.
included there.
It's gonna take a moment to open. Oh.
No problem. And to answer your question, Mayor, that it is not a driveway. We do not have parking on our lot.
Program on here.
Okay, we can't, Brian, unfortunately, I can't open it, but Mayor, Brian, you can help me out here. What we basically have is initially, this was a proposal for the stairs that come from the front of the house.
Exactly. I'm not sure if you want to share Google
Hey,
Earth.
Brian, just the way Zoom works, let Stuart present to the board so we understand what you want, and then we'll ask questions. Otherwise, it's hard to do this on Zoom. Go ahead, Stuart.
What occurred here, Mayor, was that when it was discovered that the stairs that go to Garden Street are within the right of way, building department couldn't grant a permit at that point because basically they can't grant a permit for an area that's within the village's right of way without essentially a license agreement from the village. So the initial idea was for the stairs that are going from the front of the house down to what would be the property line, and then also working on the sidewalk slab there, and then the stabs that go directly down to Garden Street. So that's the first area to repair. And the stairs that go down to Garden Street are clearly within the village's right of way. Survey shows that. That was one of the documents that was sent around to the board. When I subsequently spoke with Mr. Granoff, we discussed the fact that there are, as is shown right up on the screen now, the stairs that are at the corner of Terrace and Garden. You can see there are two sets of stairs there. And There had been initially some discussion about possibly with the village engineer about making that handicap accessible. Apparently, there was a cost issue mentioned by the village engineer. So what Mr. Graniff was proposing was, again, this is within the right of way, is to repair those stairs and the brickwork similar to what would be done leading from the entrance to the house that is on the Garden Street side. And in addition, the last thing would be the retaining wall, which again is along Terrace Avenue, as well as that one area which was sort of a Con Ed quick repair at the end of the day. So the reason we're here, and Mr. Graniff is here, is because the work that is being proposed, with the exception of the stairs coming directly out of his home, is within the village's right of way. And to do that work, he would need a license agreement from the village. And that's what he is looking to do.
The only picture we don't have is actually his house and where those steps are.
Well, I sent it to all you folks. Unfortunately, we don't have that program on this computer, but I did send it to all you folks. I actually have a picture here if any of the board members want me to pass it around.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed that somehow this house had a driveway at one point and now doesn't, because it has room for a driveway, but that's not the case here. Well, I don't know when that happened.
So, Mayor, I think that's something that Stuart was talking about before, that actually was not a driveway. That was something that Con Ed, when they did the work, that's where they left it. So my question to Brian was, while we're looking for a Google map, hopefully from the previous couple years back, was there a wall there before, Brian? There was. So.
Oh, I don't know. As long as I've been in the village, there's been no wall there. From what I've been told by the previous owner, that Con Ed did work there. And there was a wall. I never saw it, but there was a wall before. Con Ed broke it down because it was an emergency.
Got it. So they never did anything back. They just put asphalt in there. And it looks like an entrance for us as the driveway. So my question to you, and I'm not sure if, so does that answer your question, Mayor? I'm not sure if that clarifies a little bit.
Doesn't matter, it's history, and I don't think Brian's been in the community all that long, but he's getting it from the previous owner. I just want to understand, we're looking at the corner where Mr. Graniff wants to fix that, even though that's the village, and from his door, there was a picture 2 minutes ago. The staircase is what he wants. He's fixing that staircase and wants to fix a staircase on the corner over there that looks all broken up. Is that the plan?
As well as, Mayor, the retaining wall along Garden Street, along Terrace, that is, that's on the side of his property as well.
Right, so that's like where the sign is, not the retaining wall that on his property, but
No.
the gray thing that's right where the sign is, right?
Yeah, there's one of our other photos that there, Mayor, if you can see it,
Yeah,
that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
So Brian, I
I
guess.
don't know if he's actually.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask that question. So Brian, is you intend to connect those two walls and restore the green space and remove that blacktop that Con Ed did a couple years back?
Well, ideally, I think I should just go to where my property line ends, which is before the connecting of the next wall, where there's like the gap between my red line I drew. Like, why should I continue on to the next neighboring property? I think the wall would stop there. Ideally, it would be nice if it continued, but this is a little bit of a different situation. Personally,
Sure.
I thought that this should be owned by the village. But
I was gonna ask,
here-
and that was the question that I was gonna ask you. I mean, the reason why you're here is because you ask for permission for you to rebuild this. So obviously you are paying for all this.
Well, can I just back up, please? Because I know the initial picture that you did have just a moment ago, and I did email it to you just a couple of minutes ago, to the village manager, to the mayor, to the assistant village manager. So if you look at that one, and you could see it there on Google Maps. If we could start there, this is where I really started the conversation, because I wanted to. So you can see there's a staircase on the right in front of the house on Garden Street. That one leads up to my house. So what I wanted to do was have brick on the lower staircase, on the sidewalk slab directly in front of my staircase, which you can't really see here. It's behind that bush. And then on our property, we have our staircase, our stoop, which would be a repair. They would chip away and put bricks on top of that one. So you can see there's that upper staircase, and then it would continue into the village right away, onto the sidewalk, and then on the lower staircase. So it's brick going all the way up. That's the first thought.
Got it. Okay,
And I know the village engineer, he had no problem with brick. He did say that the current staircase, as you can see, is protruding into the street a little bit. And he
Yep.
said, as long as it could be flush to the wall so that a vehicle can't hit into it. Okay, so that's number one. That's what I would like to do, it more immediate, right? Because I think that's the front of my house. You know,
Right.
it's not as trafficked by the community. But then when I mentioned it to the building inspector, that corner has two staircases, as you saw initially, with that retaining wall. You know, we're in a multifamily T-zone. It does get traffic and pedestrians throughout the day. It's not ADA accessible. I see plenty of my fellow neighbors going into the street with baby carriages. My neighbor down the street, 4 doors down, Margaret Ellsberg, her husband is going to be coming home from rehab in a wheelchair. I'm friends with her. It's top of mind. Neither side of Terrace and Todd Place or Terrace and Garden have ADA accessibility, and they're both set up from the ground, from the street. So to me, it's like, why do I own this if it's like not even good for the community when this is the corner? I understand my staircase. The village engineer said that to make it ADA accessible, it would be cost prohibitive to the village. It would be hundreds of thousands of dollars. He didn't seem like very optimistic that there's anything the village could do. So this is where my second part would be, you know, making this sidewalk, I'm sorry, the corner staircases brick as well. Because as you saw, Mayor, they're getting chipped away. And if you'd want to go back to the corner, you know, that's where I was thinking, you know, and that wouldn't be immediate. You know, that would just be part of the whole village license agreement. So because the village engineer recommended that I put it all together in one proposal, because he was not interested in helping with the corner, which, you know, our property values in the T-zone are increasing at a faster rate than any other area within the village. You know, I believe that the village should be in charge of helping to support that corner because it's more of a pedestrian thoroughfare rather than my own staircase. But if that's not the case, then I have to, you know, be responsible for repairing that one day. So that's why I included that corner double staircase and the retaining wall for eventual work for when the time comes that we can also be ready to do that with the license agreement.
So if I can take it by part. Hi, Brian. Good to see you.
Hi.
So is there from as a staff question, is there a reason why we wouldn't say okay to the brick stairs on the bottom there? Aesthetic, functional, financial, historical, ecological, anything. Yeah.
Maintenance. So, if I understand the question, that question had already been addressed with Paul. So that's not an issue. He didn't have an issue. He typically will, you know, it's going to, be permitted, so to be inspected. I don't think that's there's no issue. Brian has, Mr. Grandhoff has talked to all the staff that would be weighing in on that. So that is not an issue.
Got it. So it's basically just, are we okay with it as a board? Okay, I'm okay with it. That's the first piece. I want to throw that on the table.
So staircase that right here that we're looking at, that I can understand a license agreement for. As far as the pedestrian sidewalk and the repairs, I don't understand why we would have to have a licensing agreement to fix something that's the village's, and it's in the village right away, and he's want to step up and fix it. That's on him.
We always, this board, in fact, next month you'll be dealing with sidewalk assessments. We do this all the time. The property
Right.
owner has to repair the
So
sidewalks.
the other question, the other question is that those walls that are on the road, were they put there by the person that built the house? Do we know who put these walls up?
We have absolutely no idea. We don't know when those stairs were put up. We have an action currently pending with a house that involved, that's on terrace. We don't know, and we have no records to indicate when those stairs, for example, were put in.
So I guess back to my original point. I think a license agreement for his front steps, I get that. But if he's willing to repair and it's versus the assessment, or he's gonna put it out there to do it himself, why would we want a license agreement for something that he fixed that's really in the village's right of way? It's not part of his property,
Neither are the stairs,
right? That's what I'm
Just to
saying.
but he would need a
Just to be
license agreement for
clear,
the stairs.
The option not being.
His front
discussed-
stairs.
No, the stairs that come to the street is what I'm talking about. His front stairs, he does not need that. Those are on his property.
The other stairs are not on his properties. They shouldn't.
Understand it?
even be
The ones that go off the sidewalk, I'm not done yet.
Right.
The ones that are off the sidewalk,
Right.
going to the street,
Right,
village property.
correct.
Okay, that's what I'm saying as far as a licensing agreement, correct?
Yes,
Yes, the reason we have
Yeah.
to.
Can I finish?
go ahead.
The steps on the corner.
Right.
Huh?
On
No,
the
no,
corner of
no.
Garden,
I
yeah.
think you don't, there's two sets of steps. So the options are, if I was the homeowner, you're telling me I need a license agreement for those steps.
That's what I have said. Yeah.
So if I take the steps out and I just finish the wall, do I still need a license agreement?
Which wall are you talking about? The one that's on the street?
That small retaining wall and it wraps around the terrace. If I was to eliminate them steps and put grass back there and just finish the wall and do the wall like he wants to do I need a license agreement for that?
You're talking about, I'm sorry, you're talking about terrace right now.
The
Yeah.
steps on the steps on garden and the steps on terrace, all right, and the wall on terrace.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
If
You're
he
talking
takes
about
those steps
terrace.
out,
Yeah.
puts it back to grass
Yeah.
and finishes the wall, do you need a
I
license
don't think-
agreement?
Brian, is that what you're talking
No,
about?
no.
No.
Let him answer the
He-
question,
he-
please.
He's responsible to maintain, but he can't remove something that is in village property. Can't do that.
Okay.
He wouldn't be allowed to. because
Can I
it's within the
ask you a
village's
question
right.
in regards to
Thank you.
sidewalks, those work? So I want to repair my sidewalk.
Right.
I don't need to have an access agreement with the village. I just go there and get a permit and have them replaced,
The
correct?
difference here, though, is that he's proposing to do more than just the
No, I
sidewalk
understand
slab.
that. No, I understand that, of course. So I'm with Bob on this one. The reason why I'm saying I'm with Bob, because we passed, not only that, but we passed a resolution a couple years back with every time that we do an improvement in a corner, we're supposed to make it accessible. And every time that's the pole has touched a sidewalk or a corner, we are making sure that that is an ADA accessible area. So if we make an agreement or even try to intend to make this corner back with the stairs, we start not doing what we're supposed to be doing. And I get there are exceptions and I can see the height, I can see the problem, I can definitely see that, but we have to attempt to do something. I think we will have to do that. Connecting the wall, bring it back, because that is our village property, and I have to take this call, I'm sorry. But
Can we,
yeah,
what-
yeah, I'm okay with all that stuff. Yeah.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
I'm having the issue with.
Okay.
The other side.
So
Yeah.
maybe if I might, Brian, it appears that there is at least here, and Mayor, I apologize, I didn't mean to jump in, but with regard to the stairs and the sidewalk slam in the front of your house it doesn't, at least here, there appear to be a general, and Dana, I don't want to jump on you I don't know what your thought is on that, but at least it seems that there are 3 in terms of allowing that for a license agreement. Okay.
Brick from porch to street.
Right, seems fine.
I just have to say that those steps leading from the street to sidewalk do not belong to Mr. Granoff. Those should have never been put in there. They're not in other houses, and and we're setting a precedent that when other people want to do that, I don't even know if there's parking on that street right there. It's jutting out into the street. So those are something that he wants to do, I would assume, to improve the value of his property. It is not a benefit to the village at all. It's a benefit only to his home. I don't mean to be hard about this. That looks like it should have always been grass without anything else on there. So I understand why he needs that. I assume Paul then said, the corner will come up as a project at some point when they add it to their project list. Everything gets grandfathered until you approach it. We don't look at every corner and we have a lot of old buildings and a lot of old sidewalks that have been done, undone, and redone by residents without permits, without properly done things. So I can understand the argument. I think Paul is saying, you want to get this, then you should also fix it all the way around. Otherwise, it looks a little bit weird. It's going to be brick down to the street, up to the staircase, making it all look like a singular thing. It's not actually his property. And then on the corner, that piece is falling apart. The village will have to put it on its project list at some point to deal with that corner in whatever way it needs to. Probably not as 2 steps. I don't even know if you have to have steps there or whatever you need to have at corners. So the question is, we're back to exactly where we started from. I would have preferred that staircase leading to the street not even be there, to be honest with you, that it would be eliminated, because it doesn't belong there. If it becomes the only staircase, then I'm curious as to why we have to fix that corner at all, because about, 10 feet away is a staircase. It doesn't belong to the house, it belongs to the village. So people could use that staircase without using the one on the corner. So I don't know what Paul was thinking because he's not on. But I thought I was coming into a simple discussion, not so simple anymore. Because that whole thing will look like it's one piece of property, which I understand why a property holder would want to do that. So, Stuart, do you know why Paul included the corner in this whole thing? Is it the retaining wall piece? What exactly was he thinking? Because he's usually pretty good about this.
I think it would, Mayor.
Oh, sorry, Karen.
I think, I have not talked to Paul directly about this, but knowing how this works is because Mr. Granoff wanted to do the work. Paul made an assumption that would have to be part of the license agreement. If Mr. Granoff decided he would take on that responsibility. From the village engineer's perspective, while I think that it's completely right that we need to maintain safe streets and make them accessible as possible, in an old village like this, there are sometimes, like you have in any very old community, things that become more challenging and much more cost prohibitive. So we have to look at it through a little bit of a different lens.
That's just a whole weird setup, the way people build their homes all the way to the edge and went on and did that. Okay,
I just think Paul assumed if Mr. Granoff was doing the work that it would require a license agreement.
So I think the most important thing here is his front steps, really, Brian? Is that was your pressing issue?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm okay with a license agreement for the front steps. I think we need to have further discussion about the corner now and have the village engineer involved here.
And I just want to say that I know there was a comment about like, is the staircase in front necessary? The whole corner is set up. So to me, as the homeowner and to my 80 and 83-year-old tenants, they certainly need that staircase in the front because otherwise it's a setup from the street corner. How does anybody expect anybody to get there if there's no stairs? I understand that it seems redundant that there's one in the front and on the corner. I'd be happy if the village closed up the corner stairs if they decided. But I do think that the village needs to pay attention to the corner stairs. I'm doing my part for the stairs that are in front of my house. To me, the ones on the corner are highly trafficked by pedestrians of the community. And if the village wants to close up those stairs and just make it grass, so be it. But right now it's not ADA accessible. And when I'm out there all the time and I see my, fellow community members in the street, with baby carriages every day, that's something that's a concern.
I appreciate that. I can't speak for why Paul included the whole thing in. I'm just looking at this. So there's railings, it looks like, etc. So you're gonna make this into brick. Are there other stairs like that leading out of houses in the neighborhood?
Oh, good question, Mayor, because that is something I wanted to say. There's at least 3 to 4, if not more, staircases between Garden Street and Todd Place on Terrace Avenue on my side of the street. Because it's a terrace, you know, it's set up. So all of those do have.
Yeah.
I can
yeah.
say that there are similar staircases throughout the village. I can
Yeah.
drive you around and show you the ones on Croton. Some of them are no longer being used because the houses were torn down.
Right.
But this is not an unusual situation here.
No, and I've seen it a lot in Tarrytown. When you go in the back street of Tarrytown, there's a lot of these kind of, just the way they were built, because they keep expanding them. All right, so the decision here is for licensing agreement. It sounds like just for the stairs in the front, and when the village can go investigate. So there's no retaining wall then that we're discussing, if that's all we're discussing.
At this point, we're just talking about the stairs then, Mayor. That is correct.
That little wall in front to the left and right of the front stairs looks fine. You know, I don't know if the village board believes it should be, because I might need to replace it eventually, but to me, it looks fine.
Well, if
It's-
it's on your property, then that's something you'll have to take care of. Is it on his property or on village
That's,
property?
that concrete wall is within the village's right of way. That's a,
short one.
yeah, the short wall is, that's
Short
within the
next to the
village's
street.
right of way.
That gray and white thing?
No,
No, that's
the one
his
next to the
property.
street.
The one right
Oh,
on the
okay.
street.
Got it.
So
Yep.
Brian, in your opinion, that shorter wall next to the street seems to be in satisfactory condition, and then you can carry on and do your thing with the steps.
Exactly.
And
Keep
as it
going
was
with that.
brought up, the steps would be flush with the wall not sticking out like it is.
Exactly.
So Stuart, you need to speak to Paul about that. I appreciate that, Brian, you believe that, but I think we need actually the engineer to agree to the commentary. That little wall over there is okay. I mean, it looks like it's okay from this picture anyway.
Yeah, the little wall in the front of the house is fine. It's really, if you go back to those other pictures with the Terrace Avenue side, yeah, like you could see those stairs,
Right.
you know, and that wall is starting to get pretty worn. So I just wanted to get ahead of my, you know, if I
Yeah,
needed
yeah.
to work on it one day, you know, but I do believe that, you know, Con Ed ripped that wall off. Like, I do feel like it would be, of course, I'm sure every homeowner wants the village to partner with them, but I do believe this is a corner that is more trafficked by the community than it is myself and my tenants.
All right. Okay, so we need to make a decision. Do we have a decision on this? So it just sounds like it's the front of the stairs in the front, correct? People?
Yes.
So what's the agreement, Stuart?
We'll have a resolution for that for next week.
Yeah, don't we usually charge a price though for the agreements? Isn't that our standard operating procedure?
You have charged, but again, in many ways, Mayor, I would compare this to the Yale or Havel Street. I mean, these are the stairs that basically get him into the house. So it's a different situation than if someone wanted to put a retaining wall in the village's right of way. It's a board decision, obviously, but
Right.
we have also had circumstances where this board has not assessed a fee. And I would think that this might be one of those circumstances perhaps where a fee would not be assessed. Because essentially the stairs, you know, the stairs here would benefit both the village as well as the property owner, because it is the means of access to get up
Up the
the
sidewalk.
garden.
Okay. All righty. All right, so you'll put a resolution together?
Yes,
All right. And Karen, we may just want to find out from Paul what he was thinking also
will do.
about like the retaining wall, because now that I have Brian's picture and doing a close-up, actually it's falling apart when you zoom in. So maybe this person can fix that as well a little bit. Okay. Thank you.
thank you, Brian.
Thank you so much. I think, just wanted
Thank
to
you.
share, I think my concern of not having it together was having 2 different fees, but it sounds like there is no fee. So I don't have to be concerned about that.
I don't know yet. Well, I'm gonna find out. Stuart's gonna have to call Paul and see what's going on also with their little piece of retaining wall. But that's
Great.
what it sounds like to me.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Okay, what's next?
We have a Project Mover update, talking about the memorandum of understanding that Corporation Council and Assistant Village Manager are working on with the Project Mover team. So with that, I will turn it over to Corporation Council.
Thank you, Karen. Good evening again, folks. Maddie has really been doing the heavy lifting. All I've been doing is the heavy reading. But what we've been doing is we've had a number of meetings with Project Mover staff. From my perspective, dealing with a memorandum of understanding, which is what's for essentially the bike library. That's the lending part of the e-bike system. The next agreement after that will be a site agreement. We're not up to that yet, but for Project Mover, from both a financing perspective and the means to get this done, the MOU is the more important of the two and the one that they want to get out at this point. They've provided me with a draft of a memorandum of understanding that I've been working on. I've been discussing it with Maddie. We've been discussing it with the folks at Project Mover. There are a couple of different issues that we have to work out. Primarily, a lot of the locations where this library will be. Their original plan had locations at the library and at the as well as in the schools, and we pointed out that we don't basically have control over either of those locations. So there will be separate MOUs with those locations. But the ask tonight is that I would like to have a resolution for next week, which would authorize the village manager to sign the memorandum of understanding. There's more work that has to go into the MOU in terms of there are certain NYSERDA requirements that we have to include and various terms and references in there. But the idea is to have a memorandum of understanding to allow the process of what they call the bike library to proceed. Maddie can help me out, but there is a similar system up in Buffalo right now, which is again used by these folks and the Shared Mobility Inc., which is the main issue, which would be the folks who will really be running the whole system. There's another one I know that is out in California that they use, but that'll be, as I said, coming before the board would be a resolution for the memorandum of understanding. The site agreement, we're into 2024 for that. So that's not something we have to deal with right now. But basically it's to set up the structure of between the village, the SMI, which is, I forget, Shared Mobility, as well as sort of the City5 folks who are the ones who are sort of running Project Mover to start the project going. And this is really the first stage in that. So that's where we are. And Maddie, and please.
Stuart, that was as thorough as I could possibly be. Basically Stuart said it all. This continues to be a work in progress. Certainly we've been working on this for an awfully long time. The Project Mover team, which again is headed by folks from City5 as well as Nelson Nygaard, and then the system operator, which is SMI, as Stuart correctly states, is out of Buffalo, New York. Continuing to work on this project. We're keeping an eye on the budget, the hours that staff are committing to this. So, this month has been a particularly heavy one for Stuart, is all accounted for in our match. So we keep very tight spreadsheets that we deliver on a monthly basis, as well as a project management update report to the team. But for, contract review and a couple meetings that Jamie, Karen, and I and the mayor have attended, there hasn't been a whole lot of moving and shaking yet, because we were waiting for NYSERDA to sort of iron out some kinks. But the bike library is what we've sort of collectively decided is going to be the community's first taste of what Project Mover is going to look like. So looking forward to, continuing to add meat on the bones of the MOU as we continue to learn what else is required. But basically, as Stuart mentioned, this is this is what's needed to check the box to continue to add that meat to the bones, if that makes sense. So happy to answer questions to the degree possible. We too look forward to being able to show a bike to someone in Ossining someday very soon.
So
One of the things we will have to do in terms of a village location for the bike library, a village of Ossining building, let's say, is we would have to deal with who's going to man it, who's going
Oh,
to
yes.
basically be there. That's something we have to staff and have a discussion with the board in terms of where, first of all, where that will be. Would it be the community center? Would it be, the 16 Croton would probably not be a realistic place, but
If I could
yeah,
just tag
go
in
ahead.
for 1 second.
Yes.
I think what was originally floated and, the bike library concept has sort of been evolving,
Right.
as we've learned more about, what this is exactly going to look like and, specifically what hardware and the storage needs and, hearing from the fire department about what they want to see in terms of, battery safe storage and containers and things of that nature. So it continues to be an evolving process. But basically what we told the folks at Project Mover is that, we're not prepared to be able to allocate staff from the village to staff these lending libraries. And they said, that's okay. So they're anticipating that, folks from some of our partner organizations, specifically Hudson Link, I believe, are going to be in charge of the bike libraries, certainly at first. And then of course the organization and that individual are compensated for their time. So again, we will, continue to give the board updates as we have appreciable ones. And this is just.
How
the next
many
step.
bike libraries are we thinking? How many locations? When you say bike library, you mean like when you see city bikes and they're all lined up?
Right.
No,
What are we
so
talking about?
so there are 3 different components to Project Mover. And again, just by way of a very, very brief refresher. One component is sort of like a city bike that you say, I want to take the bike out for 2 hours to go to a restaurant and come back. I'm going to put it on my credit card. It's going to charge me whatever it is, $5. I'm going to put it back in the rack. I'm going to take a picture of it. It's going to charge my card and I'm done with Project Mover for today. The second one is the lease to own component, which is certain qualifying low and moderate income folks in our community are going to be able to get this bike at a reduced price as their primary method of transportation. And then it lives with them forever. It's their property. The third one, which is where we're starting, is going to be the bike library. And a bike library concept is effectively, for those who don't know, and again, we continue to be educated on this, so I don't mean to repeat myself, is basically the same as a library, like to get a book or reading material. You go, you say, I need this for 3 or 4 days. I need this for a week. I'm checking out this bike for a particular long period of time. I'm offering some collateral to make sure that I come back with the bike, on its due date. And then that exchange is made and I go home with my bike and I bring it back by the due date and then I'm all set. So I believe from my last look at the MOU, I believe there were like 3 or 4 locations contemplated, but again, we're still setting this up. It's not exactly clear what it's going to look like. I would imagine, and Karen and Jamie, maybe you could help me fill in when they talked about square footage that would be required at each bike library site. I think they said something like 500, 600 square feet. So it's, it's not a huge number of bikes in each location, probably like 10.
Could the multimodal transportation hub have one of these?
Absolutely. We
Feels
are
very
hoping that this
multimodal
all
to me.
lines up. Well, that's
It's
a drum that
mode.
Karen's been beating on every single phone call, I will admit. So, we're hoping that these projects overlap to a degree, but certainly we're hoping that the bikes will remain even after Project Mover, as the 3-year pilot is over, and that will be an integral component of our multimodal transportation hub.
In an ideal world, we'd love to see the actual provider on, at the multimodal site as opposed to more of a volunteer. Well, not that it would be volunteer, but I don't think you're going to get the same type of staffing working with the partner agencies, even if they're compensated. But to me, that's something that becomes an asset in terms of not just people in the community, but people visiting the community who you just have a unique feature there because you can get on the aqueduct. It's right in the middle of town. So you can, it sort of gives you that sort of day in Austin riding around and being able to, connect all these things that we're doing. So that's the goal. And we have made that pretty clear to all the firms that came to bid on that particular design project. So yes.
So just a question about the MOU that you want to be able to have for next week. So, or the legislation for next week that to enable a village manager to sign the MOU. This MOU is a basic boilerplate of what's gonna happen and you can adjust it accordingly to each location?
The MOU will only deal, our MOU will only deal with Village of Ossining locations.
Right.
Because the original one they gave us has Roosevelt School, OHS, and, places that but the answer to that is yes. First of all, usually when I ask for a draft of a document, you get the whole document. What I
We got
basically got was
Skeletal
literally
outline,
a skeleton and say, you put all the bones on it. So
You still have
we can
stuff to
put a
fill in.
lot of stuff into it in terms of, who's going to be there, the times it's going to be done, all those things. One of the things is to have a further conversation with shared mobility, because a lot of this has to be communication with them, because they're the ones who are going to be essentially providing all these bicycles. But the answer is yes, it can work depending on which location we want and what times we want and who's going to be there. All of that will come into play.
Thank you.
I want to mention also because I know that we've talked a lot about the bike battery safety, that the fire department is being kept in regular contact about what's going on with this project, just to make sure that they get an increased level of comfort with how these batteries are being used and stored. So just to set minds at ease that field is well covered.
We'll never be at ease, but we'll be at a comfort level, maybe.
Comfort level, maybe. I'll take it.
Okay, so I'm just, again, I can't talk too much. This project is not going at all the way I had thought it would be. Part of it is being an incubator community. I guess it's like working in a startup. You got to constantly be open to new ideas, be very nimble. I appreciate the staff doing that. It's probably more hours than we thought we'd be spending on it. I don't know what the match is. Like I somehow feel we probably maxed out already on whatever match we're supposed to do. It's not fair to us, actually. I feel like the horse and the cart every time we get this sort of updates, the horse and the cart gets switched around. I thought what we were going to get as an update is the avenues they were supposed to create. The next step was first of all, I've yet to see a bike, right? So we're going into October. I don't even know how late that is with whatever bike we're discussing that we promised the community. Still don't have that. Like the basic e-bike project is about e-bikes. I've yet to see a model that works at the right height and the right everything. One would think that would be a very easy thing to get us so we could start showing people, get people excited about it. So it puts us really at odds. It makes me really, really nervous, this project, because every time we get an update, it seems really half-assed, not from you guys, but the people you're working with and wherever the hell they are. I thought that they came down. The next big milestone was supposed to be the avenues, because where we will create the lanes for these bikes actually is more important than almost anything else. Because if you can't ride them anywhere, then all of this other conversation seems to be, the cart and the horse getting mixed up. So I feel like really frustrated with this project, and disappointed in the consultants that put this together. And without naming names, I think frankly, all of them, because they seem to not really be sensitive to what a village needs. And the whole premise here was that they're going to use us as an incubator so that they can then succeed here and really replicate this in hundreds all over villages and towns and communities throughout New York State. Because anybody could do a flat city like New York City. Anybody could do flat cities. Those are not challenges. That's already all over the world a decade ago. So I'm not really getting a sense of, progress moving forward, except our own staff sort of fighting their way to the finish line here and pulling the rest of these consultants along. And that's, to me, a real problem, because I can't figure out the game plan. I keep getting updates to a project that has no finish line. I don't know what the project is anymore. So they're updates, but they're not updates to where we have to be. So, I don't even know. I mean, okay, you'll sign an MOU that who knows how many hours have now been spent on this. Don't see a bike, don't see lanes or avenue recommendations, and don't see any time frame and timelines about how this gets rolled out. And now we're talking about staffing something with whom? People that don't work for the village. So that's not gonna work. Who's gonna manage that aspect? Maybe it's just that I have to think of this as working with a startup that is figuring things out as it runs down the track. But it seems really haphazard. Like, we're getting an update about what? Like, nothing. There's nothing being said here today, to be honest with you, except that you need to do an MOU that you guys had to create because the consultants who get paid a lot of money by the state of New York didn't have the decency to do it correctly in the first place. And yes, I know I'm being recorded and I don't really care because I'm a little bit angry for our staff, frankly, for spending this much time and energy on something that looks to me that doesn't really have a game plan in place by the consultants who promoted this all along. So what is the update to? Like, what do we have?
Mayor, thank you for those comments. I think that it is different than we expected for sure. And I think your comment about being a startup and sort of figuring out as we go is unfortunately maybe a little bit more true than not, or very, very true in this case. However, that said, we have, you know, I've been pretty clear with the Project Mover team that it's, you know, this is really on them. So I just do want to acknowledge the amount of work that staff, particularly Maddie, has put in, as well as Jamie. You know, it is an effort, but we are also, I'm working very hard to make sure that we're managing our time. Because right now, the bulk of the deliverables are really on the Project Mover team. And while it is going a bit more slowly, there's been some hurdles that weren't anticipated. Unfortunately, that's probably par for the course on something like this when you want to be the first one out. And I think that we have to, one, reset expectations, but I want to, you know, I have made it very clear to the Project Mover team that we are busy, and they're the ones who are getting the money. So we're going to wait on them, but we also said that rather than try to create things or do things that, and this is, I feel very strongly about, we're behind on some of the launches that we wanted to do to drive momentum, and partly because we weren't able to get either the bikes or they couldn't get it together in time. And my feeling is that, well, as much as I would love to keep building momentum, we're not going to go out there with something that's not fully baked, because I think that further undermines. So if it takes a little bit longer, so be it, but it will take longer for Project Mover to move. We're going to stay very focused on the work that we have to do. And again, the burden of the deliverables is on the Project Mover team. And I've made it clear to our staff that we're limiting the amount of moving that we're doing right now based on the fact that we don't really have anything to do here. Even with the MOU, there's going to be a more, you know, there'll be an exchange. So, and there has been. So I just want to caveat, we're aware of the issues, but I also want to.
Is there anything
that I've been very protective of the staff on this?
Well, I am really upset at how much time our staff is spending on this. That's how I started the conversation. It's totally insane. The consultants get paid. They're supposed to deliver. They're supposed to have a plan. It's their project, and they're basically shoving it down the line here. So, is there anything the board can do to help? I'm sure you've thought about it, but we might have to take a different tack, because from my perspective, there's a bunch of people collecting money and not delivering. And I'm a taxpayer in New York State, just like you are. So I get upset on two levels. First level is that our staff is being asked to do way more than they should be and have to pick up all of the slack of consultants who are highly paid. And number two, on a personal level, like these people, it's their project. We're the incubator, but it's their project. And they should have their act together. And the other communities that want this are all sitting there going, hey, what's going on here? Like, how are we going to convince our own communities to bring this on if it's not going smoothly? So it does feel like we're a little bit of a startup, except we don't get the benefit of it.
Well, some of those
Okay,
comments have
I'm
been
like
shared with
talking
them. We have, right now, while we are, working on the MOU, the reality is, there's a lot of work to do. We have made it clear to the project mover team that the onus is on them. So we are pulling
Okay.
back in that sense. I do
Okay.
think, the reports will be, we're going to be a little slower in getting to where, I think this was a little bit of overpromise and optimism, and the delivering turned out to be much harder than anybody imagined. That wouldn't be the first time.
Karen, are the
happened, but
consultants still all the same, or did they change again?
they seem to be,
Since the last.
yes, since the last time they changed, they're all the same. So,
Oh,
but,
okay, so that was fine. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. That adds some stability to what happened in the beginning. Okay.
yeah, so there were some challenges, not
Right,
again.
those are
so-
hiccups. Yeah, that's
But I
hiccups.
think that the last conversation that I was involved with them was actually exactly to your point, is we need a work plan, we need a strategy, we
Yeah.
need to have deliverables and dates. And I believe that there were a few more seasoned consultants on the call who heard that loudly and clearly.
Okay, well, I trust you guys to do it. I'm upset for you guys and for work that, anyway, I've already said my piece. But it just feels very disconcerting, that's all. Yes, Manny?
Mayor, so let me ask you this. So in the past, I know the projects, different projects, any kind of projects, sometimes we get the consultants to come in front of us and just to give us an update. How about instead of we signing it or having the village manager sign the MOU portion, we just ask them to come in and give us an update themselves to the board and to the public before we sign anything else.
Trustee Casati, I know that was addressed to the mayor, I believe. But if I might
Yeah,
interject.
the mayor's just looking blankly into the screen.
Yeah.
No
I mean,
clue.
we've been asked for something to do something, sure. So
sure.
that's,
So they were actually scheduled to be on this board's agenda for a work session in July, I believe, or it may have even been June.
Yeah.
Then we pushed to July, then we had very few meetings in August, then we pushed to September, and now we're looking at October. To sort of echo what the manager said a couple minutes ago, for your sake as well as ours, to have them come in and say, we don't have much of an update for you, probably would have not been terribly productive. Our hope a month ago was to be able to start this bike library pilot in October. So we had a couple weeks where we were going to race to that finish line. And then again, to Karen's point, we said, we've waited long enough. What's another couple of months that we're going to rush something out that's not fully baked? So we can have them here whenever you're ready to see them. But we have been operating under the assumption, and I hope that you will agree, that having them here sooner would have been less productive than more.
And we do anticipate to have them here in October. That said, I think that the learning experience for all of us is that this is going to be a much longer process. The good news is that, with the exception of time, which is valuable, don't let me underestimate that, but this is something, if it takes longer, it takes longer. At the end, it's better it's done well. Doing this poorly as a startup means that it will ultimately fail, and then it's more wasted money. And this is government money. This is all our taxpayer money in the state. I think that at a certain point, it may be good to involve, make sure, people in the state are informed that this is a particularly challenging exercise, and that if that's going to, that the state has an accountability too of managing this process from their perspective. And if it becomes more challenging, they have a responsibility to explain that to not only us, but the taxpayers.
and I agree with you 100%. I mean, and look, we've done this exercise before with softwares, with all these other stuff, that things take time as long as the foundation is solid. I just don't feel that the foundation is solid in this case. And by us keep signing things and agreements with them, it's not helping.
Well,
and I will, unless you disagree with that, I mean, I
that's
just
why I
don't
think we
see
have to
it.
look,
Yeah.
that's why there's probably some other conversations. Again, a memorandum of understanding is really simply an agreement that you have an intent to work forward. It's different, it doesn't commit us like a contract. And in this case, we're really not committed in that sense. I think the biggest issue is the amount of time for the staff on a project that really needs to be better thought out on the project manager side is where we've come out, and my conversations with the last project management team was get your ducks in a row, then we'll talk,
But
you
we're
know.
talking about
So-
this for months.
Well,
So the
that's-
time is already has been wasted in a way.
The reality is though, this is a grant funded project, so it's not necessarily, it's not going well as we, or as quickly rather, but there's really no loss to us as long as we're controlling our time.
Right. And
I don't
also-
know if it behooves us to pull out of the project.
So
So why would we
that's
sign an
debatable right
MOU
now.
if we don't have deliverables, or if we don't even know where they're at? So does
Yeah.
not signing that MOU, does that stop the process? It's just a box that's got to be checked,
We
correct?
just have to really look at the MOU and content wise and make sure that we're not overcommitting or overcommitting ourselves in any way. I don't think necessarily, I think an MOU can be helpful to them as they demonstrate that they have an incubator community to go forward with the project. So I think that that's a balanced conversation, and we're happy, I think, to provide more detail subsequent to this meeting and via email to make sure that we have all those things.
But I think the point I'm trying to make is if we don't sign this MOU right now, and we convey that message to them that until we see them in October and have a better understanding of where they're at, and send the message that we're tired of waiting, get your act, I almost slipped, get your act together. All right, and then we'll do the MOU.
Fine by me.
It's not a problem.
I mean, does it make sense?
Yes.
It's not a problem.
Because we're just, yeah, okay, we'll sign it, and then 6 months, we got nothing.
Well, we've been very clear about this, and I've been clear about this to people at
No,
night.
and I'm sure you have. I have all the trust that you're doing the right thing for us, for the village. The problem is they're not coming through. So you know what? Why should I give you something if you're not coming through to me?
The bigger issue is, and you know, I think there's like good intent here. The bigger issue is, and this is really an issue for the state. We have a mandate from the governor, electrify New York State. We have a certain amount of time frame to do it. And if we can't, and this, my biggest concern is moving forward with confidence. So if we're going to move forward with something that is part of that overarching strategy of electrification, of social justice, of all these things that we talk about all the time, it has to be done in a very deliberate and thoughtful and organized manner. And you have to, again, under promise and over deliver to be successful. So what we want to make sure is if we're going to be an incubator community, great for us, like we're willing to try something new. But I don't want to be in a position where the village of Ossining is doing something and putting something out there that then lacks credibility with the public, because it doesn't help the overall mission. It doesn't help anything else. And this is, you know, this has been touted as a $7 million investment by the governor. I don't want to see one bike riding around Ossining and somebody saying, what are we doing with the $7 million?
Yeah, no, and to further that point, does it help us to go up the food chain with assembly?
Oh, I think that's been done, Bob.
We can follow up with
So
more detail.
I guess by that, I could see the answer for that.
Yeah, well, no, I think like, and that's, I know, and that's why I said, I know we're being recorded. I'm hoping that so here's the thing, these consultants don't work for us. We are a part of a larger sphere. We're a piece of it. It's not like all the consultants we hire, they work for us, we can hire them and fire them. That's not actually what this relationship is. They work for the state. That we are a piece of an entire puzzle. They don't actually work for us. They're supposed to work with us because we are the community that they're starting with. But we're just a piece of a much larger puzzle. But I do have to bring it back that we have to go up the line in the state and be a little bit I think after October, Karen, because now the time's about right to say, you know, let's reset and understand what the obligations of each party is, because this has to work for our community, or else we shouldn't be an incubator. And nor should anybody else, as far as I'm concerned.
And again, I'm not sure that it won't work ultimately. I think the biggest challenge is we assume that the plan for this that was in the proposal would be executed more fluidly and more easily, and that doesn't seem to be the case.
No, it's
Some
painful.
some things have been outside of the control of the group.
Right.
And I think you're absolutely right in saying this is a much bigger issue and a much bigger, we're a small part of a much bigger piece. In that regard, I think it's important for us to be messaging to the community because we did a lot of buildup. We had the governor here, we had, or we had representatives here and, we did a lot of buildup and I want to set expectations. It's just going to take longer. And that doesn't mean we won't get there. But it's going to take longer, but to be clear, there is no cost to the taxpayers for any of this. And that we're continuing going forward on other things that are within our control that we can move forward on. At this point, I think that talking publicly about Project Mover, we just have to reset expectations. This is what I've told this group, that unless you have something meaningful to say to the community, let's just put it on hold till you do.
To the point that I was making before, and something that Bob emphasized as well, is just, I'm not in a rush. If they're not in a rush, I'm not in a rush. That takes away, and I'm sure you guys spend at least, I'm gonna say 5 hours, which I'm sure is not even enough for how many hours you guys spend in a week, in this particular project, which I'm sure is just 5 hours just for Maddie in one day. But it does take time. So we have invested. We have invested taxpayers' money already, no matter what.
Yes, in terms of
So,
staff time, absolutely, but thankfully we don't get paid overtime, so it's been absorbed
That's not the
as
point.
well. But in that, but to your point is what I'm saying is, as they work through their stuff, we're pulling back the amount of
I
time that we're.
think we should just pause and send them a message. Again, I think it's just two, maybe the mayor as well, but I'm not sure. But I think we should just pause this. I'm not agreeing to Sanjay's memo of understanding just yet until they have everything ready and just even have a presentation in here and see, their progress, show the public what they actually been working on it for months. So.
Did you say it's a problem for you or not a problem for you, Karen? I thought you said it's not a problem if we don't do the.
No, it's not a problem. I think we can hold off. I think it makes sense. And I think, the message is too, it's not really us against the consultants. It's a little bit of the process itself, in the sense that there's a concept here that makes sense. We believe in it fundamentally. I don't think there's, if it takes longer to do it well, it takes longer to do it well. There's not, to a certain
Right.
extent, it's outside everybody's control. That said, I think we have to recalibrate the message. What we've told them is you have to recalibrate the message, and until you come forward with a work plan that then we can formulate an MOU around, that might make more sense. I think that was good advice. So I think that
I think that's
those are all
fine.
things that we could go for, because they should, there is an issue and of they're driving the train. We're just sort of helping. We're just the passengers here. And I think if they're going to be driving the train, there's more of the process that they could probably be taking up to take less burden off us. I don't think that they'll even have a problem with that. I think they're also frustrated. And this is the nature of things that are new, and it's not an easy process, but I think ultimately we'll get somewhere.
For them, they want to succeed because beyond this are, 10, 15, 20, 100 projects. This is just the beginning for them. So they have an interest in succeeding, but it just seems very slow moving. Okay, so I think we've gone around. We have an understanding. We are a little bit disappointed in progress, not your progress, but the other groups. And there are I think 5 different consulting companies involved with this, or vendors or whatever. And I think that we said all that there is to say. So we're not going to sign it because it sounds like we have 3 for now. That's only a temporary scenario. They'll come in October with an actual update. I agree with you. If they have no update except to tell us why things aren't getting done, I mean, they don't work for us. So what are we going to do? We're going to sit here, nod our heads and go, okay. It's like there has to be a meaningful presentation. So we'll leave it with you.
All right. Thank you very much. Now moving on. Corporation Council is going to discuss an amendment to the village's contract with TriStar Risk Enterprise Management.
Thank you, Karen. Good evening again, folks. TriStar is the third-party administrator that handles the village's liability claims. Just to distinguish from Triad, which handles the third-party administration of the village's workers' compensation and 207C claims. The contract with Triad, which was started in September of 2020, was based upon 20 new files a year. The fact of the matter is that in the first year, there were 28 new files. In the second year, there were 34 new files. And in this year so far, there have been 43 new files, which means that so far we're 23 files over for this year. Triad is acknowledged, not Triad, excuse me, TriStar has acknowledged that they're not going to seek to charge us back for the first 2 years, realizing that they probably should have picked up on that in the first 2 years. We are, however, in the last few months of this agreement that we actually have an RFQ out for our third-party administrator starting on January the 1st. So what TriStar, and just to point out what the contract provides, that if in fact the average goes over 20%, over 20 new cases, they would negotiate with the village basically an agreement as to additional fees. As I mentioned, for the contract period ending September 15th, 2023, for the period beginning September 15th, 2022, there were 43 new matters opened up, which is 23 more than would be as expected. The Triad, I keep doing this now, I should not. TriStar has a set fee per claim, depending on the type of claim. So for example, if it is a police liability claim, it's $3,100. If it's premises liability, it's $1,015 per claim. Auto liability, $625. Auto bodily injury, $1,015, for example. So if you look at the claims that have come in the past year that are in the excess, there are 8 property damage claims in the auto area. There are 3 bodily injury claims, 1 police matter. The total comes to 23 new claims, and the total amount would be $18,580, which would be owed by the village back to TriStar. I will say this, I think they do a phenomenal job having, I'm the one who has direct dealings with them on all the matters. The fact of the matter is, as I said, they only realized this year that they actually had exceeded. So they contacted me, and I'm coming before the board because what we'd like to do is just include essentially an amendment to the existing contract that there would be an additional payment to Triad in the amount of $18,580, representing the different claim fees for those 23 additional claims. Again, that's only through September of 2023. TriStar did agree to extend the contract through the end of this year, but that's not part of this because that's an additional 4 months. So it would be basically if we went over 5 new claims in this period of time, they could seek additional expenses from the village. We, I think, so far have 2 new claims in that period of time so far. So that's basically a revision to the contract to basically deal with the fact that we have seen a significant uptick in cases this year. As I said, most of them property damage, 8 of the 23 are property damage. Actually, let me say that actually a little bit more than that. 8 of the 23 are auto property damage, 3 of the 23 are general liability property damage where could be flooding in a house or things like that. So 11 of the 23 are property damage cases, which have come in. And the property damage auto are DPW trucks, fire trucks, police cars, all those kind come in. Claims get opened up. Those cases resolve very quickly, which is why the per claim charge is less. But they, as I said, basically add up. If you're just interested in the prior year, where we had an overage of 14 cases, 9 of those 14 were property damage cases. So property damage is sort of driving that in terms of what goes on. So that's what the request is here. I suspect that when we get the responses to the RFQ, particularly, and I won't be almost certain that TriStar will be one of the responding parties, that average number of 20 will be up and probably go up to maybe 30. But that you will also then see a concomitant increase in the annual fee because the fee is based upon that. But this is what has been presented, and it's just a request to essentially amend the agreement so that there would be an additional $18,580 paid to TriStar. Just so, and I'm just looking at it here. I believe their annual fee is I think it's about $6,500 per quarter. So it comes to a little bit over $25,000 a year. And that's been graduating slightly over the 3 years of the agreement. And I'm here to answer any questions.
I have no questions, sir.
So
I'm okay with.
what was their set number for the year? Of cases?
20.
20. So if they went to 30, actually, I understand that the premium will go up. So if it's less than $18,000, we're good.
And actually, the 20 was based upon the fact that when they took over the account, they had the past sort of 10-year history. It's in this way, it's comparable to workers' compensation. We had one really outlier year, and now we're sort of coming back.
Right.
Hopefully, we will sort of come back down. I will say that with the litigation that has involved the different cabaret or bar establishments in the village, each time we suspend a license, they then go into court. So each one results in another claim. So it's back and forth on that. But that's basically right. If they raise the average, you'll see your fee go up as well.
Okay, I don't have any questions. Anybody else? I'm good with it.
Okay,
Thank you, folks.
thank you. Our next and last topic is, we want to talk about lots 5 and 6, which also known as our post office and Market Square lots, and Main Street lots. If you remember, and this is going back a little ways, the board had approved a resolution to go forward with fee parking in those lots. And for various reasons, we have held off on that. Assistant Village Manager will take you through now the strategy and how we would like to roll this out again with this will be a big change for people, but it is something that for the most part, the businesses are kind of excited about. So again, we'll talk about some of the reasons why we stalled on this, but and now what we'd like to do to get this rolling and finally.
Thank you, Karen. Good evening, board. Jamie, if you could get us started here. So I'll try to be as succinct as possible, and then if there is any questions, feel free to interrupt. So as the board, I'm sure remembers, and as the public likely remembers, the village got a grant from New York State, Empire State Development back in the 2019 CFA process to do a parking study, mobility and parking. So we worked on that study pretty diligently, got a lot of interesting data points about parking throughout our village, specifically in the downtown, and then a whole bevy of recommendations. So going into 2022, we put together our 2022 parking plan and sort of put 5 different categories into effect to sort of group those recommendations. So expand parking supply, expand parking capacity, manage parking demand, improve operational effectiveness, and improve alternative mobility options and wayfinding. So we have made pretty strong progress across all of these categories. There certainly have been ones that are not nearly as exciting, such as renaming the lots in the code, which thanks to Stuart, we have done, implementing additional parking at the train station for pay by the day, things of that nature. But there's still plenty to do. Jamie, if you could click on pending. A couple of these we're working on right now. Creating employee parking downtown, I'll get back to in one moment. The payment in lieu of parking is something that this board has had on their desk very recently that hopefully will be in place very soon. The multimodal transportation hub we talked about a little bit earlier this evening. Those RFP responses are due on Friday at 10 a.m. So we're really continuing to keep the ball rolling on that project. Converting downtown spots to paid is what we're here to talk about tonight. So I'll get back to that too in a moment. Align the meter hours with demand is something we're going to be recommending in the 2024 budget in terms of signage. Moving the hardship parking to an online platform. You know, that's been my goal for quite some time. We're getting a little closer on there. And then implementing the digital chalking, the vehicle mounted LPRs. That's another project that we're getting up and running slowly but surely. And then Project Mover, as we just discussed. So Karen alluded to the fact that this is something that the board adopted the local legislation enabling us to charge in these parking lots back in August of 2022. So we've now gone more than a year without enforcing this. We've turned off the zones and the Passport app. They would have been app only for a variety of reasons. The timing was we spoke with the downtown business owners. We very widely advertised a meeting in May of last year. We didn't get great attendance. We then were getting into the fall, back to school. We don't want to do it then. Holiday season. And then we sort of have
we had challenges with the app too.
We had challenges with the
That
app.
was, I think, the big, one of the big.
It wasn't the app necessarily, it was the handhelds. And
Well,
as the board
we had trouble with our mechanism for
Right.
enforcement.
So we moved from Passport to FBS, which has been very, very, very helpful, as I'm sure Stuart can attest. So we have a lot of different irons in the fire here all working together. But another sort of added snag here, in the same local law as the board authorized us to start charging in those two parking lots during the hours of 10 a.m. and 8 p.m. Monday through Sunday, was the creation of employee parking. So certainly we have plenty of folks who, patronize our downtown businesses, but we also have folks who work there and have been used to parking for 3 hours for free and then going outside and moving their car. And to the degree possible, we wanted to sort of cushion that so that the folks who were there to make money didn't have to spend money to make money. So we implemented and the board approved an employee parking, linear parking lot, I believe is what we called it on Central Avenue. And we also, another reason we didn't go forward with this entire program was parking at the train station that was going to be interrupted by the solar panel installation. We knew that we would need those spots on Central Avenue, at least the bottom 25, in order to accommodate folks who would be displaced from that parking lot. So all that being said, we've delayed and delayed and delayed. Now we think we're ready at the very least to introduce the paid parking in formerly known as lots 5 and 6, but now as Main, Spring, East, and West, as per the new names in the code. So Jamie, if you could go to the next slide. Oh geez, I didn't mean for this to happen. Please continue. Thank you. Sorry about that. So as I mentioned, the board has passed two. You've seen chapter 250 several times now since we've been working on this parking plan, just various tweaks here and there. I expect that will continue. Sorry in advance. But so the first set of revisions where we added the meter time to these parking lots was adopted as local law number 6 of 2022, which was back in August, as I mentioned. And then it was amended further this past March in local law 3 of 2023, whereas you may recall we went around and made sure that we had the right number of spots of all the different types in the various parking lots. So when we first talked about this, you can see the sort of crude graphic I made at the top there about what we were sort of proposing. And now you can see what is actually going to happen once we put this into effect at the bottom. So what formerly was considered Lot 5, which is on the western side of Spring Street. That's the post office lots. So it's the one right outside the post office, and then the one up against the pharmacy was designated zone 91415. And then the parking spots across the street at Market Square were 91417. It is important to mention for folks in the neighborhood who depend on this as a way to park as long-term parking, the permitted spots will not change. So we maintain the permitted spots. So if you have a Muni Day or a Muni Night permit, you can still use those spots if you live in the neighborhood. What the board passed in their legislation would only be for those free 3-hour spots. So Jamie, if you could move to the next slide, please. Sorry again. Okay. So as I mentioned, we went at this in earnest last spring and summer. We held public hearings, obviously, on the local laws that were before the board. We held that meeting for downtown businesses. The slide presentation we presented is available on the village's website. It contains a lot of the same information that this board has seen in different iterations over the past 2 years. We went door to door, the local businesses on Main and Spring Street, and handed them a flyer in English and Spanish to let them know that this change was coming, and letting them know about that meeting, which again was not terribly well attended. Thanks to Jamie and DPW, we created some pretty comprehensive signage to post in those parking lots, which has remained bagged for the better part of the last year until we decide we're going to get this up and running. But obviously, that being said, this is a long time since we've done all that work, and so we're asking the board to help us to choose a date to aim for, so that we can begin that engagement once again in earnest. So updating the village website with the new zones. You can see Jamie has a handy chart over here on the right, so that will be updated. Reconvene with the downtown business owners. We'll give it another try. Same flyering, English, Spanish strategy, and reconvene that meeting with updates. Use social media to give advance notice. Mayor, if you would include it in your mayor's message, I'm sure that would be helpful. Monitor the signage and add more if necessary. If folks say, oh, I need to see it on both sides of the parking lot, it's not clear from the way that I use this parking lot, we can certainly add. And then also ask the public and our business owners for message clarity. Have we been clear about, the hours that this is supposed to be, applying to folks, the days? Does it make sense the way that we're rolling it out? Again, this is something that would be app only, so there's no hardware investment other than the couple of $100 that we've spent on the signs, and then certainly our labor to post and cover and recover several times those signs. But other than that, we are ready to go. We would just need to tell Passport to turn the zones back on so folks could pay, and then go through the process as I've sort of listed here. Jamie, if you could go to the final slide. So just as a reminder, before we take questions, residents, visitors, and business owners can email parking@villageofossining.org with questions about permits, paying through the app, or daily parking at the train station. And then also, Jamie has a ton of resources on the municipal parking page on the village's website. Not only can you see the chart of all the different zones, but it can also link you to all the different permits that you might be interested in purchasing. And then once we get the parking lot map, that's going to go on that section of the website as well. So I'll stop there. If you want to stop screen sharing, happy to take any questions. That is the end of the presentation. Certainly we know that to really get the word out there in a way that is sincere and deliberate, we don't want to rush, but at the same time, we're mindful of the fact that now we have the holidays coming up again. So happy to take the board's feedback on timing for this particular
And I
element.
just want to say, based on some of the feedback that we got subsequent to this, the holidays actually might, if we can get this done by early November, it actually might work very well, because that would give you the turnover parking during the holiday season that helps stores for shopping. So it's actually, we could be timing this pretty well. So
the reasons the businesses are excited about making them paying lots is because it encourages turnover. People won't be sitting there for something.
Right. It encourages turnover, and we can do that to a point with chalking, but certainly not efficiently. And we only have but so many people who are enforcing parking at any given moment. So certainly them being able to drive past with a license plate reader or the handheld is going to be more efficient than them chalking tires.
So the problem we're solving for, right, is that people have been basically parking their cars all day there. When in fact it's designed to be parking for stores, for etc. So that the whole idea is that we want to turn over the spots and not let somebody park there all day, all night kind of concept, correct?
I think that is generally correct, but I don't want to give the impression that enforcement isn't happening. It's just a more efficient way to enforce doing it this way.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the messaging.
yes. Yep.
Clear, crisp messaging, and it has to be done in advance. So it's got to be one sentence. I don't care about enforcement. I don't think anybody believes that we're going to sit here and have people do enforcement 24/7. That's not realistic. So nobody wants to spend money on hiring people to do that. So the idea here is that we've heard for the public, because when you start charging for things you've never charged before, that doesn't go over well. There is no one that likes that. Even the people that should like it sit there and go, oh, of course, we would never do something like that, even though it actually works in their favor. So I think the message here is that that in looking at the parking, we realize that there are people parked here all day long, taking up spaces that are really supposed to be used for shoppers and it's, for people who are really the shoppers, I would say, and not even employees, because employees work 7-8 hours, so they should not be using those spaces. There are other spaces they could be using. I think November makes sense because I think we're gonna have to do messaging all through November. I'm sorry, through October, which is like next week.
Correct.
Basically. That's why you're recommending November 1.
I have one more detail that I missed. I'm very sorry to interrupt, Mayor. Something that came out of the Nelson Nygaard study also was that the times for which we're metering parking are not at all aligned with our high periods of usage. So another thing that this is going to assist with, and another message that I'm going to depend on Jamie to really help me drive home, is that right now, if you want to park downtown between the hours of 8 a.m. and 10 a.m., you would be charged for that time. When we know that spots are very easily accessible during those hours. So by making those 2 hours free in the parking lots and then eventually on the street, we can sort of encourage folks, if you want to park free downtown, you can get your errands done, pop in for a cup of coffee, get your dry cleaning first thing in the morning. So long as you're out by 10 a.m., no charge.
Okay, so that's very, very important because a lot of the businesses there actually are, they're nighttime and they're daytime, morning and night, very little daytime. So that might be another positioning statement. My only question is, and it's a little off track, is it seems to me that looking at your other email, Karen, about the staging area for when the solar is done in the commuter lot, would these be the 2 parking lots that we may need to use during that
No.
time? And then we would I guess we could just say we're not charging for these 8 weeks if we had to.
No, so the only challenge, and I think we'll be able to work around it, but the challenges would be with moving the portion of moving the employee parking to Central Avenue. Because right now those Central Avenue spots are really commuter parking spots. And we were going over this with the solar people today, where are we gonna, like people bought their, they got to get to work and they bought their train pass and they are entitled to a space.
And they don't take a lot of time. They can't take a lot of time in the morning. They got to park.
While we did, the board did approve a local law regarding the allocation of employee parking, that might be tricky to launch at the same time. So we might have to delay that a little bit and then have, I think, Open Door at one point was parking, but they do have a lot now that they didn't have before they own the building. So that's something we can talk about. They're also moving their administrative offices, although I don't think that's going to happen that quickly. So
we're also going to have to look at all the other mega players with a lot of employees. For example,
yeah. So I think
Children's Center was supposed to have different parking. They're using the streets for that. We're going to need that street space for people because everything will flow.
Actually, the Children's Center got parking at the post office in the post office owned lot behind the
Oh,
post
in
office.
that-
I don't
in
know
that
how they
lot?
did that, but they did do that successfully. So kudos to them because nobody else can figure out how to do that. I know that some people's talked about using some municipal property space on Central Avenue, but we'll have to talk to powers that be on that. Bob's not even listening to me. Trustee
I
Fritz.
don't want to, I
But,
don't want to go off on a tangent. I just thought that might be a solution, but it sounds like you've already thought it through, so therefore let's.
Yeah,
Another
we're doing the
Fine.
where to park puzzle.
Okay, that's a different, so then you're thinking about it. I thought these might be the lots, but you don't think it's necessary. All right.
No.
so Does
No,
anybody
not
have
for
an
those
issue with
lots.
starting this on November 1 or November 15th or whatever? Like, they need a date is what it sounds like.
January 2024.
You want to do January 1st of 2024?
No.
Is there
I
a
think
reason?
I think is, I'm sorry. Yeah.
You're gonna need time.
You're gonna need a lot of time. I mean, October just to advertise and all the stuff that you guys are talking about, you know,
Updated the
I don't.
stakeholders on that. I mean, the reality, I mean, part of the problem is we take too much time. We're in the situation we are now because we're really going to go back and do a lot of things. The signs are up. People have seen them. We've done a lot of the legwork. You know, if we can always delay it, I think it might be good to try. I think what I worry about is we take too much time and don't do it. Then people are like, oh, you know, it's a delicate dance.
All right, so one person wants January of 24.
I just
Another
think, you know,
person?
just keep this in mind. Holidays are coming. A lot of the stuff we're trying to, you know, we want it as much as, you know, many years back, Rika, you remember this, we did, and Karen, you were here with us, and pretty much half of the staff were here with us. You know, we did free parking, we did, we give, I don't want to say free money, but it was,
Yeah, we did.
the chamber. So we
Yeah,
did
yeah.
a lot of the stuff, you know, encouraging the shoppers to come in. You know, to me right now, doing this year with the solo that I hear and coordinations that need to happen, you know, to me, the perfect time will be January after all the holidays happen and be like, okay, January 1st, this is what happens and go from there. But that's just me.
Okay, anybody else have any thoughts on that?
My question is, we were to say, go ahead and do it, how fast, when could you be ready to open it up?
It could get turned back on tomorrow morning at 9
Signs
o'clock,
are even up.
but
It was already on and they had to shut everything down immediately.
Yeah, so we could do it, we could turn it on immediately. That's not the issue. The issue is, so I appreciate what you're saying. I think those are valid points. Maddie, you were going to say something?
I was just gonna say, I think it's, you know, I'm sort of hearkening back to our 2 conversations ago about the bikes, right? That we've waited this long, and I think if we can find a happy medium between waiting too long that we have to start, you know, from whole cloth, but also making sure, because again, I think it was you or perhaps the mayor who said, if people aren't used to paying for something and now all of a sudden they have to pay for it, it's a tough pill to swallow. I think more pipe is more helpful.
That's not,
Yeah.
you know, I don't disagree with that. I think then that the messaging can be as of 2024, we're
That's
bringing
fine.
some
Exactly.
changes.
Yeah.
And then that way, you know, there's pros and cons for the holiday season, but as you said, we were like incentivizing no paying for parking at one time during, you know, so
Sure.
I think that's fine. What we'll do is we might still start talking to the businesses sooner. Obviously, like the public information, we'll start seeding it, but like, I think, you know, we'll do that big push, during, you know, in the weeks before it actually happens. So we'll just
I
build
think
towards
part,
that.
you know, part of the advertising that we can utilize, I mean, Jamie, you can do that, what do they call it, garbage collectors,
Big belly.
the big bellies, thank you. You know, part of that, it could be the last month on December, it can be like, in a couple of the locations, be like, this is happening January 2024, you know,
It-
just,
it
you know,
gives
just
you
kind of gives you,
Plenty of time to
yeah.
answer questions. We'll make sure that we have talking points for everybody. You know, because we have talked about this and we haven't done it yet, I think, you know, look, I think there's some awareness among some people. They've seen the signs, they
It's
know we're
just a
not enforcing
tradition.
it yet, but it's
Yeah.
just really setting that. So that's not a problem.
All right, does anybody have a problem with January of 24? Is there a downside to January of 24?
I'm fine with it.
Sounds like a plan. Thank
You
you.
guys okay? I'm looking at Omar and Dana. I'm not seeing.
I just said
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah, I think it's fine, you know. It doesn't matter how many times you said it was already turned on. Let's just start the new year with it. I think Manny's right. Like, people expect new things anyway, and it's after the holiday and we're
And
done.
then maybe we'll have some updates on, well, we'll talk about train station parking next week, but, or next, you know, but a lot of moving parts. Some are moving
yeah.
slower than we are. I think we're actually,
Moves as fast as us. That's
no one moves as fast as us. That's the
Yeah,
problem.
that's true.
Everybody.
Okay, is that the last item?
That was the last item.
It is, Mayor. I do have two matters for exec, but they can actually
know.
be held till next week. It's really up to you. I don't know how
Oh,
you're.
excellent. Oh, Bob, can you wait
that's-
another
I
week
think
on
that's
yours?
Omar wants to stay.
Totally, totally worn out and it's almost 11. Bob, can you wait on, Bob also wanted to add something to exec because I told him we're going to have one. Can you wait one more week? Bob?
He said yes, Mayor.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Oh, I turned my mic off as you could hear my whispers before, so I,
You know what? I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I could actually hear some of you.
not that I
talking-
was whispering, but
I could actually hear some of you talk to each other in the paper moving. These microphones are really they're really clear.
We'll have to remember that.
Yeah, just word to the
Ooh.
wise.
Do I have a motion to adjourn the work session?
So moved.
second, third.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
All
you.
right, ladies and gentlemen, we are done. It's 10:49 PM. We will see everybody Wednesday. Where are we next Wednesday?
We're at the court.
Are we?
We are.
Okay. All right, we're gonna try this again. We will be at the courthouse, next Wednesday. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Better. Feel better.